Something going on?
Okay, I got it mute now.
All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Community Development and Urban Planning Committee meeting. We have a long agenda this evening. We have about 7 items on the agenda tonight, along with presentations. So let's get started with introductions from council members. Councilwoman Oliver. Councilwoman McCoy.
Yes.
We have.
Are we doing introductions? I'm sorry.
Yes.
But thank you, Councilwoman McCoy, 6th District.
Councilwoman Xanthi, Oliver, 3rd District. Sorry about that, I was on mute.
No problem. Thank you.
Councilwoman Linda Gray, 1st District.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Any other council members?
Councilman Chris Johnson, 7th District. Good evening.
Good evening.
Sam Guy at large.
Thank you, Councilman Guy. And I think that's it so far for council members. All right. Again, Rashima Dixon, Chair of the Community Development and Urban Planning Committee. And also we have our staff for the committee also, if you can introduce yourself, which is?
Rahima Jabarbe, Director, Strategy and Policy Research.
Thank you. So our first item on the agenda this evening is regarding the discuss the resolution approving for the Planning Department's grant application regarding the historical and cultural affairs to continue the historical preservation planning program. Is there anyone to speak to this evening?
I am, Madam Chair. This is Debbie Martin.
Great, Ms. Martin. If you can just introduce yourself and then you can start your presentation.
My name is Deborah Martin. I'm the Historic Preservation Planner with the Department of Planning and Development. The Historic Preservation Fund grant application before you is the annual grant that's been offered to the city as a certified local government for over 35 years. It supports the historic preservation planning position. Because there was not enough time to obtain approval prior to the deadline of October 30th, you're being asked to approve the application after submission, but before the award has been made. The 2021 budget that was approved did anticipate this grant offer. The preservation planner provides technical assistance to the city by performing federally required reviews for HUD projects and other federal undertakings, by responding to constituent and staff requests for historical information, by offering assistance with historic property incentive programs, managing and preparing National Register nominations, creating history-based programming for education and tourism, and by providing major project management as assigned. Highlights of the past year include posting on the website of 2 public history products. One was 5 civil rights profiles, and the other was the virtual interactive Underground Railroad tour of Wilmington. 2 National Register nominations were completed and processed. One is the American Vulcanized Fiber Plant on Maryland Avenue, and that has just been listed on the National Register. The other is St. Nicholas Ukrainian Catholic Church, presently New Calvary Baptist Church in Southbridge, and that is being prepared for submission to the National Park Service. I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, great. Thank you, Ms. Martin, for your presentation. Is there any questions from council members? All right. Seeing no questions from council members, is there any questions from the public? All right. Seeing no hands in the public, this item will be on our agenda for next week. And it's a resolution, so it does not have to be voted out of committee. Thank you so much for your presentation this evening, Ms. Martin.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And then I also would like to recognize Councilman Turner.
Thank you.
Yep. All right. And our next agenda item is to discuss the resolution authorizing the mayor for the fiscal year 2020 as far as regarding the ongoing COVID-19 crisis. And I know we've seen this a lot. So the resolutions regarding the COVID. So Director Weir, are you going to speak to that legislation?
Yes, Madam Chair.
All right. Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the Community Development and Urban Planning Committee. We're here to discuss a resolution that's authorizing the mayor to file a substantial amendment to the fiscal year 2020 plan. As the chair mentioned, yes, this has been discussed previously at this committee. Basically, the timeline is that the fiscal year 2020 action plan was adopted by resolution in May of 2019 with the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act. There has been amounts of dollars that have been awarded to participating jurisdictions. On May 28th, by resolution, the First Amendment on the plan was approved by City Council, and this is a follow-up to approve the additional funds that have been made available of $485,995. On the screen is a working document that basically outlines the applicants and the amounts that have been brought under contract. So when we look at it, in this working document, anything that has a color on it actually is just our original estimation of budget. What's in the clear boxes is actually applicants, the amount that we're under contract, and then the notes for the services that they're providing. So our first tranche was $1.3 million. We had $818,000 roughly dollars in requests, which allowed us to have a remaining balance of $485,000. The second award is another $486,000. That'll bring us up to a total of 1.7, and that would continue to have an available balance of $972,000 for providing services under the COVID requirements from HUD. At that point, if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Sorry about that. My internet's a little unstable. Any questions from council members? Councilman Guy?
Yes. So none of this money actually has to do with housing projects. Is that correct?
Correct. At the current time, when you talk about the eligible activities, there's a long list, and there's no development of housing that would not be directly related to the COVID-19 effect on individuals.
Okay. And is there a list of organizations that requested help that were denied?
No. Well, the list of organizations that requested help have all been granted under contract at this point. So no, there's not any agencies that have applied that have been denied as long as they were eligible for activities under HUD's rules.
So the people on this list here, did they have to put in a new application to be eligible for this money?
They had to be proactive, yes.
So was there anybody who was proactive that was told no?
Not that I'm aware of now.
Okay, so could you send back to the committee the list of who asked for help and was told no?
Absolutely. And at this point, Councilman, I'm not sure there was any agencies that made an application that did not meet the requirements of HUD. So I will get back to council on it, but the assumption that there is actually an agency at this point is not something I could guarantee.
Now, I just want to be clear. You added a caveat that was eligible. That was not my question. My question was broader than that. I just want to know if there was any organizations that reached out to the city that wanted to try to get some of this money that were told no, eligible or not eligible. And I know you don't have the answer now. That's why I just asked you to provide us with that.
Heard and
Is that
understood.
something you could do?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm all set, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilman Guy. Councilwoman Gray.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question is, has all this money already been allocated?
Councilwoman, the amounts that we have been awarded to date are 1.791206, and of that we still have available $972,644. So the amounts that we've been allocated are all by HUD have not all been allocated to local organizations.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions from council members? Councilman Turner.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Director Weir, can you when you refer to the funding that's available for under HUD and the housing portion of the COVID, can you give clarity on what can that be provided for under housing and under the COVID CARES Act portion of it?
Well, right now, most of the money that is being provided is in hotel and motel vouchers. And that would be for individuals and families that have been affected by the COVID pandemic that might have to be quarantined or have lost their housing. So right now, that is where the majority of our housing assistance is being offered.
No, my question is, I know that's what we're using it for, but what are other things that can be used for underneath the COVID CARES Act, such as maybe security deposits or first month's rent of someone that was affected by COVID and their living arrangements, and now their living arrangements has changed.
Yes, that is eligible under subsistence payments. And there are 4 agencies right now that are under contract to do that in the city.
And Director, where if someone doesn't go to those 4 facilities and they do need those fundings, is it possible for them to get funding outside of those 4 agencies since there is money available, or they have to go through those agencies?
They have to go to those agencies.
So Councilman Guy asked you a question about anyone being turned down. So you wouldn't know if someone got turned down from those 4 agencies on anything, or would you have record of that as well?
If I'm hearing the question correctly, just check from my understanding. If you're asking if I would know if someone from one of the 4 agencies were under contract that was not eligible, either income or location, because this is only for City of Wilmington residents, I would not know that at this particular time, no.
Okay. No, the reason I asked, I think Councilman Guy was asking for whatever's underneath her purview, which is $1.7 million, and some of that is being sent to other agencies. We wouldn't know if those agencies denied anyone that was eligible or not eligible, correct?
Well, it hasn't been reported to me as at this point, no.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilman Turner. Any other questions from council members? Councilman Guy?
Yes, Madam Chair. One other thing, this is a grant, right?
Yes.
So does the grant include any money for marketing?
Well,
Hello?
there's admin allowances in these dollars, yes, and the agencies that we are under contract have submitted those budgets with administrative fees included.
Okay, so here's specifically what I'm trying to get at. I'm hoping that your department would provide the leadership to put out some kind of television commercials out on the internet, on the city's television station, saying that we have money to assist people that have the following needs. And here's the 4 agencies that you go to if you need help. That should be a message coming from the city, because if you leave it up to the agencies, sometimes agencies will just tell the people who are their friends and family that we have money to help you with this, and we have money that we could use to help you with that. So do you plan on having a city marketing campaign? I'm not talking about spending a whole lot of money. There's lots of ways to put stuff out on Facebook and Instagram.
Sure.
Are you guys going to put the word out saying to people, here's the types of things that you may need help with, and we just funded these 4 agencies, go see them if you need this help? Are you going to do that?
That sounds like a great idea. We
Well,
haven't
my
as of
question
yet.
was, is that something you're going to do? I don't mind if it's yes or no. I just want to know.
I don't have an answer, yes or no. It sounds like a great idea, and as far as you're absolutely right, there's plenty of low cost ways that we could do that. I would talk to the appropriate people in the city as far as for our social media accounts and make sure that we could get that done. But that certainly would be my intent. Okay.
So how are you going to get back to council to let us know whether you're going to do any kind of outreach? Are you going to get back to the chair?
Sure, that'd be great.
Okay,
Perfect.
thank you. Take care. That's all I have, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilman Guy. Councilwoman Oliver?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was going to basically piggyback off of what Councilman Guy said. But far as over Riverside, I have seen some. I was going to say I think the agencies have been putting out stuff because I've seen some literature over there, stating they have money and they have been servicing that area with some money for COVID. So I know they have been doing, I can't say I've seen, a lot of outreach everywhere, but because I'm not over on LLC, but I have seen some. I think the agencies are putting out stuff because I sent the girl to Northeast Social Service and they was able to help her with a hotel voucher. And I know with Riverside they don't. So I think the agencies are putting out some stuff, but I can't say I've seen a whole bunch, but I did see something over to Riverside and over to Northeast.
Thank you, Councilwoman Oliver. Are there any additional questions from council members? All right, seeing none. Are there any questions from the public? All right, seeing no hands raised in the public. Again, this is a resolution, does not have to be voted out of committee. This means this will be on the agenda for a full council meeting next week. Thank you, Director Weir, for your presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Our next agenda item is ordinance 20-17 to amend Chapter 5 of the Wilmington City Code to change the permissible hours of operation for certain realtors. Who will be speaking to this evening? Councilwoman Oliver?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. This ordinance amends Chapter 5 business of the Wilmington City Code to require certain some retailers to close at 10 o'clock instead of 12. I got this stuff here. what's going on here from individuals that I have spoken with. This allows, due to the change in the time, daylight saving time. It's getting darker earlier, so it's a lot of people hanging out a little later. I mean, hanging out, just it seems like they're hanging out later. But this is not nothing new. With the crime increase in the city of Wilmington, the gun violence, and mainly along with the COVID-19 spreading rapidly throughout our country, especially in the minority communities and urban communities. We, the residents of the city of Wilmington, must be careful of congregating around large crowds. I mean, you see it all on the news, I say 90% of them are not wearing their masks around a lot of people in various areas, because I have walked in the stores, hung out on the corners, and the residents, and not just the 3rd district, several other districts have spoken in reference to just complaining about individuals hanging on corners to 12 o'clock. Anything to me at the 12:30, I mean, if the store's closing at 12, by the time they leave is 12:30, and most of the time it's trouble. So I have received a lot of complaints, and it's been going on for 3 years now. Individuals hanging on the corners, fights erupting, drugs, and just a lot of loitering. A lot of this is a public safety issue. A lot of residents just don't feel as though the police are doing the jobs they should be doing. And I think a lot of it may have something to do with COVID, but before COVID even started, they were still doing this. If anybody has any comments, I'll wait to say some other things at the end.
Thank you, Councilwoman Oliver. Councilman Johnson.
Councilwoman Oliver, in terms of I understand this is to address COVID. Is this going to be after, when we get out of COVID, is this something that you're going to revisit, maybe changing it back?
Yes,
once we've
exactly
worked on everything?
Exactly, because I had mentioned it before, and then I just kind of discussed it again with some civic association and then some residents, and I kind of just let it go. But because of COVID, I thought this was a good time to bring it up. And I mean, once the numbers decrease, I'd definitely be interested in bringing it back up. So,
and a follow-up question.
This would be appropriate.
If I may ask a follow-up question, Chairwoman Dixon, for Councilwoman Oliver, now this only is for a specific strategic area, the STAR zone, correct? This doesn't apply to the whole city?
Correct.
So other retailers in the city outside of this specified zone, that again is an improvement zone, those shops won't be affected, correct?
No, and I'm sorry, I guess we should have sent out a map of the STAR zone, but I don't even have it in front of me. Yes, that's correct. Yes, that's correct. Did you have another question? Did I answer the question?
Johnson?
No, I just, those are the only questions that I had. It was, I just wanted to make sure, what zone it was. And, again, I've heard, Councilwoman Oliver, you've talked about this issue in regards to liquor stores in your area and retailers. And I'm not in that area. I don't represent that district. So, I trust your judgment if you're saying that you're getting complaints in that zone.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilman Johnson. Councilwoman Gray.
Thank you. My question is, on the agenda, it says certain retailers. Could Councilwoman Oliver be specific about what retailers or which retailers? And also, I don't have a map of the area. So could someone be specific about what area we're discussing? I think answering Councilman Johnson's question, it's only for your district, but still, what areas and what retailers?
Well, when you say the star zone, that would pretty much be the third district, the northeast area, and some of the north and some of the east side area. Heavy populated activity, violence, and just say crime, high crime areas.
Okay, well, we're attached too. So you're just saying generally your district. So which retailers? What type of, it says retailers, certain retailers.
Corner stores in the third district.
Okay. So we're just discussing corner stores, liquor or convenience, whatever they call themselves, but mostly corner stores.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Targeting corner stores in the Red Star area in the third district.
Does it state in this legislation how you're going to notify them about change of hours, or are they going to have a time period to adjust to this change of hours?
Yes, definitely. And I've been to the stores and talked to them about it. So I mean, this is no surprise. But I do plan on sending them a letter. It'll be about the 5th letter I send them, but they will get notice.
Okay, thank you.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Gray. Councilwoman McCoy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Excuse me. So, Councilwoman Oliver, my question is more so about rather than having this ordinance just to your specific area, there are actually many areas within the city who may have a store that I guess is similar to what's going on in your district. Did you give any thought to making this more so about creating hours of operation for while we're in COVID, for some of our corner stores, making certain that everyone gets a chance to be open so many hours a day to make the money that they need in order to survive, but still close at a timely fashion.
Right. Thank you, Councilman McCoy. That's what it's really saying. It's just saying you opening up your regular time, but you're closing opposed to 12 o'clock or 12:30 at midnight, you're closing at 10 o'clock. And like this is, and as everyone's saying, as soon as the COVID dies down, we could come back and revisit it and just, extend the hours back. So this is not nothing I'll be thinking about doing permanently. But right now with COVID and everybody, congregating and nobody's wearing masks, and I'm getting calls like, I'm going to the corner store, Councilman Oliver, the people in the corner store don't wear masks. The people going in there and wear masks. I thought it was mandated for everybody to wear masks. I'm like, look, I can't babysit, but I'm just getting a lot of calls about it. So I was like, maybe this is a good time just to revisit this piece of legislation since COVID is here. Once it died down or some of the numbers are reduced, we can come back and just, call me or say, look, Xander, let's, change, times has changed this. Maybe the weather's changed, daylight time savings has changed. Let's come back and revisit. We can just switch it right back to 12 o'clock. And this is not to harm anybody. They might have kids that might want to go to the store, but with COVID and just trying to save some lives. So it ain't so much of punishing anybody, but you do just have a lot of people out there that not wearing masks, and these numbers are going up. And, you see more people going to the hospital. People of color are passing from not taking this epidemic serious.
May I follow up, Madam Chair?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. The reason, Councilman Oliver, the reason why I had made that statement is because actually in my district, I don't see stores open that late. As of 12 midnight and past. Most of the stores, the latest stores in my area are closing at 11 p.m. But to have them maybe inch back an hour or whatever, when it comes to their time, does not seem that it's improbable. It's just that wanted to make certain that everyone has that ability to make the money that they need on a daily basis. So if the stores in your area are closing as late as 12 midnight, are they opening at a sound time to be able to state, I've been open this many hours per day in order to make my daily quota on what I should bring in? That's what I was getting to. If they're if they're opening at 7 in the morning.
They're opening up at 7 in the morning. They're making their money, believe me.
Okay.
Yeah, they're making their money. You ride by some of the stores, you see lines of people. They're making their money, believe. But to answer to your question, they're opening up at 7 o'clock. The stores that I'm talking about, they're
Okay.
opening up at 7, and that was the reason why every time they bring it in the meetings, or I'm like, well, somebody might get off of work at 11 or 10 o'clock because I used to get off late. But then I'm thinking with COVID, and they still calling, and just the number of calls. I said, I just wanted to let them know I hear their voice.
Okay. Thank you. That's it, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilwoman McCoy. Councilman Turner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can we also have the star? What is it? The star, whatever that's called.
The
Yeah,
star
can we
map.
get the map for that, and also the map for RISE, which is residential improvement stabilization effort. That's another defined in this legislation. And I hear that, Councilwoman Oliver, you're saying that only pertains to the 3rd district. I don't know if that is true. That's accurate as far as those sections. And it also gives, or the market value and analysis area. So we have to know where that is when we talk about this legislation as well. I heard Councilman Johnson say this doesn't affect his district. I'm pretty sure one of those three analysis will be affecting the 7th district and every other district in the city. And my question to Councilwoman Oliver is, why aren't we're talking concerned with COVID, why aren't we extending this through the whole city? Because it's not just in certain parts of the city that people aren't being respective of masks. And this legislation doesn't speak to that per se. It just speaks to the hours of certain retailers. I want to, just make sure that we're not targeting anything when we put in certain, like when we say words like certain, it seems like we're targeting certain areas, and other areas are going to be able to conduct business past these hours if they so fit.
Well, thank you, Councilman Turner. I can make sure council members receive the maps tomorrow. But I understand your comments, but I didn't, if you're not getting complaints about it.
No, that's not, I'm not asking about the complaints. I'm not talking about the complaints. I'm specifically my question has nothing to do with complaints. My question in the legislation, it states 3 different types of maps.
Correct.
It states about the STAR redevelopment area, and it talks about the RISE, and then it also talks about market value analyst area. All 3 of those may not be the same.
That's right.
So for me to make a decision, I need to see the 3 maps that we're referring to in your legislation when we're talking about because of the rise of COVID. And I don't see anything in here about COVID, but I do see three maps being referenced.
Oh, and as I stated, I made sure that council members get copies of the maps tomorrow. And okay. I was just making a reference to COVID just to get a general idea why I brought this back up.
Okay. Well, I just want to be clear that this is not just pertaining to the 3rd district. It could be pertaining to all of our districts in the city. So I think that everybody needs to see those maps of all 3 of those areas.
Okay, I'll make sure you get the maps tomorrow. So I appreciate that.
Thank you, Councilman Turner. And then also I think it will be helpful to Councilwoman Oliver, if when you send the maps, if you could send the specifics of like which realtors, a list of them, would be good also, so that people just know where those are also.
Okay.
Is there any other questions from council members?
Madam Chair?
Yes, Councilman Turner.
Do we still have planning? Is planning still on the is Ms. Gwen still on the line? Maybe she can maybe she has the what the maps are, the areas are from planning?
Yeah,
Mary Bell has them. Excuse me. Mary Bell can send them out to you, Mark.
I believe the maps were attached to the ordinance, the original ordinance back from 2006. Also, Mapping and Graphics, which prepared the maps, would have copies. And we've already looked into this because there was a request for those maps.
Okay, so you basically, I'm sorry, Madam Chair, can I continue?
yes.
So you basically send those maps of all three areas, Gwen, for all the council members?
I can, as I said, they are attached to the ordinance.
Well, this
I'm sorry.
this is not an ordinance. This is a resolution. So I'm not sure if we're talking about the same thing. Gwen,
no, the map.
No, it's an ordinance.
It's an ordinance.
It is an ordinance.
Okay.
And I apologize because Mary Bell had, I had the attachments and she already requested them. I should have made sure y'all had them. I just didn't. Sorry about that.
Councilman Turner, is there anything else you wanted to add?
No, that's it. So we're saying that this ordinance will have the attachments. That's supposed to, all the maps are supposed to go on this by tomorrow.
Thank you.
Yes, I believe that Councilman Turner, that's what Councilman Oliver is saying.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I have.
All right. Thank you, Councilman Turner. Is there any other questions from council members? And thank you, Gwen, for stepping in. All right. Any questions from the public regarding this ordinance? All right, there's one person. WYVT. Hello, are you speaking toward the legislation? We'll come back to that. I see second of D. Marquis Hall.
Good evening, everybody. I came on late. I would like to know what businesses in the 3rd district, Councilwoman Oliver is targeting specifically. I'd like to know. She mentioned that they know. So if they know and they've received 5 different messages from her, I don't see any reason why she can't share with us what businesses specifically are being targeted.
This is a comment section, not for me to answer questions, Madam Chair.
Okay. All right. Since we don't have that information, thank you, Mr. Hall. Since we don't have that information on hand this evening, again, we'll try to make sure we can get it out to the public also as soon as we get the information regarding the specific locations that will be affected by this legislation. And Councilman Oliver, did you have any last remarks you wanted to make regarding the ordinance?
No, I just want to make sure everyone gets a copy of the maps tomorrow, and that was it. Thank you.
So this is a ordinance and does have to be voted out of committee. Is there a motion, Councilman Turner, before? I get into the motion.
Yeah, yes, Madam Chair. So this is an ordinance that we're asking to vote out of committee without having the attachments to the ordinance. So this legislation is not actually complete. Is that what we're asking?
Madam Chair, yes, that's what I'm asking. And I, as I said, I'll make sure you get them, the maps tomorrow. And I just like for it to get out of committee. You want to vote no, feel free after you look at the map, but so yes, that's what I'm asking, to ask for it to be voted out of committee without the maps.
So
So the answer to your question is yes, Councilman
Yes.
Turner.
Correct.
and we're taking the word that the sponsor is also saying that on those maps, it's only going to say that this is pertaining to 3rd district. Is that what we're saying as well?
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
So you're saying that this legislation is only pertaining to 3rd district when we put the maps into the legislation?
Well, the store map is main. Yes.
Okay, so when we vote on this, it's only going to be pertaining to the businesses operating in 3rd district.
Yes.
That's all I have, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilman Turner.
I'm
Councilwoman
sorry.
McCoy.
Thank you. I'm looking for a raised hand. Thank you. So I kind of understand what Councilman Turner is actually referring to, only because I don't have a problem with this, but I haven't gotten a chance to talk to the retailers in my area about how this would actually affect them. I've actually, like I stated, my retailer do not stay open as late as that area. There's only pretty much one retailer who's really out of hand when it comes to the loitering and the mask wearing and stuff. And I've sent many times, people to that area or sent the email to make people, the state aware that they are not adhering to the mandate. But our hands are tied. We've never taken the time. The city's never taken the time to figure out how we will implement. So, with that being stated, I feel like if this actually affects my area as well, because of the maps that I haven't seen, I do not want to be responsible for actually cutting into an hour of my retailers' time and not giving them, an opportunity to have those conversations with you. So I just wanted to make you aware. Like I said, I do have one store that's out of control, but I don't have a problem with the 10 o'clock closing time. But if I haven't gotten a chance to really speak to my retailers, I wouldn't be able to support it tonight without seeing the map. So I am just going to be present or no vote tonight.
Okay. Thank you, Councilwoman McCoy. Councilwoman Gray.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Councilwoman Oliver and I share a border. So I'm going to assume that it may affect some businesses in my district. But I don't have a problem with shaving off an hour, especially with COVID, because I agree, even though I haven't gotten complaints in my district, when I ride around town, I do see people congregating outside of these convenience stores. Well, I do have a couple on Washington Street, but no one's complained about them. But I think it's unreasonable to see them all hanging out there with no mask on. So I think this is good, whether it affects your district or not. Everyone has had to sacrifice somewhat, especially businesses. So if the businesses aren't controlling people hanging out and not wearing masks around their business, then an hour lost is just something they have to deal with. That's just a comment I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Gray. Councilman Guy. Councilman Guy.
Yes, what I did is I went to our website because I wanted to look at the maps that I think Gwyneth Kaminsky was saying they were attached to the original ordinance. So I tried to just now pull them up, and what I'm realizing is that they're not attached to the ordinance that we have posted on the city council website. So she might have thought they was attached to it, but that's not what city council posted. There's no map. So all of this time, in fact, so much time has passed that if they had been attached, everybody would really have had a great opportunity to see what the maps look like. Is she able to put the maps up? Is Gwyneth able to put the maps up
Excuse
on
me,
the screen?
not presently. We're not prepared for that. And I think Councilwoman Oliver said she was going to get you the maps tomorrow.
Well, who's that talking?
This is Herb. I'm sorry, Herb Inden from the
Herb
planning
Inden.
department.
Okay, because I just heard a voice interject.
Yeah, I'm sorry. And if there's any problem with her getting it, I'm sure we can probably find them.
Okay.
Let me
Now
just
I know
break
that
in. I
Bud
think-
Friel, I know what happened to me is that I had a meeting, the finance committee, which you're on, Councilwoman Oliver, and the finance committee told me, well, because the staff didn't attach the budget amendment, that they refusing to let it out of committee. Now that's not really why they let it out of committee. That was the excuse they used. So I'm just saying to you, that committee that you're on, that's the approach that they took to it, which I couldn't really argue with it. It's like, okay, I'll get it. But the people who had to provide it were their people and they refused to provide it. So in this particular case, I just find it odd that they didn't bring it with them. And the public right now can't even see the maps. Nobody can see the maps that's watching this public hearing. So I just wanted to share that with you, that they're not there either. That's all I have, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilman Guy. Councilwoman Gray, and then I'll come back to you, Councilwoman Oliver.
Madam Chair, I think Gwen said, maybe I misunderstood, that they were attached to the original ordinance, and this doesn't have substitution on it. So I don't know where the original ordinance would be, but I'm not sure. I thought that's what Gwen said. But I must say that this has happened frequently, that we don't have all of the ordinances by time we go to committee meeting or council meeting. And I'm writing an email now to complain about that. So it's just something that has been happening more and more frequently. And I hate to have to hold something over because of something missed by staff or whoever, possibly Oliver, but it's been happening frequently. Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Ms. Gwyneth.
I just want to clarify, when I'm speaking of the original ordinance, hours of operation for the Rise and Star areas were put into play in 2006. And at that time, we had prepared the Rise and Star maps for those areas. Those are the maps I'm referring to. I was not involved in the current ordinance, but when we were requested to provide those maps, which were sent to the Planning Commission, that's what I was referring to. Now, sometimes when maps, there are a lot of maps to attach to an ordinance, the ordinance will reference that the maps are kept in the planning department or in the mappings and graphics department, and that may be the case in this case. But I just wanted to clarify that I was referring to the original hours of operation way back 2006 when we first visited this issue of hours of operation in the Rise and Star areas. So hopefully that provides the clarification necessary.
Thank you, Gwyneth. Councilman Turner and then Councilman Oliver.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I have to agree with Councilwoman Gray. It seems like when we get to committee, we talk about discussing things in the committee, but then we don't have all the information in the committee so we can discuss it. Then we're on the floor discussing about it, and we don't want to have that discussion on the floor. So this is an ordinance that we want to have more discussion in committee about. We don't have the information. It's going to get attached after the meeting. And then we have other legislation on here that we do have Exhibit A, Exhibit B, Exhibit D, and so on. But we don't have it for something that's pertaining to this. And I'm with Councilwoman Harley as well. A lot of the stores in our area closes at 11 o'clock. So adjusting the hour without us knowing or giving them the opportunity to speak on their behalf or in the community as well. I can't agree on us moving this forward without having those attachments, especially 3 different areas in the legislation that may be 3 different areas. So all of them might not be the STAR area. One might be the RISE area, and another one may be the marketing analysis area. So I don't think that this legislation is ready to form right now without those maps. That's all I have, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilman Turner. And Councilwoman Oliver, what I will say too is there is another Community Development Urban Planning Committee meeting that will be on November 30th. So if that wants to give you enough time to get all the materials, seems to be the reigning as far as for anyone to make a decision on it. I think that could be another time where you could bring it back with all the attachments. I wanted to give you that as an opportunity as well.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That sounds good. And I want, so I will hold this until November the 30th for that urban planning. That's fine. And I just wanted to clear up what Gwen was talking about, but she's talking about 2006. That was when Stephanie and I wasn't talking about, I was just, that wasn't what I was talking about. I was talking about the maps that Mary Bell had for me, but I didn't get them attached. So when she said that, I thought that's what she was talking about. But that's fine. But I do want to make a statement about most of the individuals who own these corner stores. I wanted, on the record, they don't live in our community. So it seems like they don't care about the COVID rising because they're able to leave and go home where they live. And I just want the individuals to know I heard their voice, and I am going to try to have this information that's needed for November 30th. Thank you so much, Madam Chair. So if it's possible, I'd like to hold this legislation to November 30th.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so ordinance 20-17 will be held for November 30th committee meeting. Our next agenda item is ordinance 20-49, which is the approval of the removal of a portion of Palmer's Road. Who will be speaking to that legislation this evening?
Madam President, I will.
Is that you also? Okay. Is there, is there a presentation with that one too?
There is a planning staff member present to make a presentation.
Okay. All right. Councilwoman Alvarez, do you want to make your points first and then turn it over to the planning department?
Yes. This is a piece of little piece of land that I'm trying to get my information together right here. I'm sorry. I wrote past there. It's between, hold on a second. Anyway, it's a portion of the road located between New Street and northern boundaries of the tax parcel number 26029 removed from the city map. And it is going to upgrade the substation. This legislation is supported by the Planning Council, the Director of Transportation, the Fire Department. They've all been out there. It's right in between, right near the Hope Commission and Vanderbilt Avenue. So it's just a little portion that the Planning Department is trying to remove. And then I could turn it over to Gwen. I just wanted to let you know. I rode over there with him and saw it.
Actually, Jessica Molina from my shop will be making the presentation.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you, Councilwoman Oliver. My name is Jessica Molina, and I am a planner with the Department of Planning and Development. Tonight, I am presenting the ordinance 20049, a proposal by Delmarva to remove a portion of Palmer's Row, and I have a PowerPoint ready, so if someone can bring up the slides. Thank you. Can we move to the next slide, please? So as you can see on the slide, there is Palmer's Row, and it is located right off Vanderbilt Avenue. It is a dead-end street. Next slide. Palmer's Row mostly serves the Delmarva parcels, which are all the parcels highlighted in blue. Next slide. There's only one parcel that is not owned by Delmarva, and that is the one highlighted in orange, where the Wilmington Hope Commission building is located. Because of this, Delmarva is not requesting the entire street. They are only requesting the small portion that is hatched, surrounded all by Delmarva properties. So the partial removal of Palmer's Row would not affect the circulation to the Wilmington Hope Commission building. Next slide, please. In addition to the street removal, the ordinance is proposing to remove the paper alleys located in the Brandywine substation. As you can see, there are 3 arrows pointing to those alleys. Essentially, before the Brandywine substation, there were some housing units on the site. They were demolished, but the alleys were never removed from the city's map, so that will take care of those. And Delmarva is planning on improving the Brandywine substation. That is the objective of this ordinance. As Councilwoman Oliver stated, this is recommended by the City Planning Commission. It has the support of the Director of Transportation. The Planning Department and the Fire Department have no comments regarding this ordinance. Thank you. Next slide, and I'll be happy to answer any questions if you have any regarding this street removal.
Thank you, Jessica, for the presentation. Are there any questions from council members? Councilwoman Gray.
Thank you, Madam Chair. She was breaking up a little bit, so I really didn't get the point of this. So could she please just repeat what is the purpose and point of this ordinance, the request from Delmarva?
Yes, Councilwoman Gray. Essentially, Delmarva is going to upgrade the Brandywine substation, and they're requesting the removal of a section of Palmer's Row.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Guy.
Yes. The presenter just made a statement. She cited 2 facts, and I just wanted to get clarity. She said something about a substation, and then there was something else she said in that same sentence. Could she repeat that?
Or do you not even know?
I talked about the Brandywine substation, which is the site that we're looking at. And I'm not sure what's the second statement you're referring to. I mean, I did say there used to be housing units there before the Brandywine substation was located at this site.
Okay, so if you don't get what you're asking for, does that prevent your substation plans?
I'm not sure. That will depend on Delmarva. I don't know if we have a representative here, if they could discuss like their layout and if they would be able to like maneuver, or essentially they would not be able to upgrade the Brandywine substation.
So nobody can answer that question?
I'm asking right now if there's somebody from Delmarva that would be able to clarify that here. Can you raise your hand if there is a representative?
I mean, I can say I don't see anyone on here from Delmarva.
Because I see a couple of hands raised.
Okay.
David and John. Can I have David?
Yes, Madam Chairman. This is David C. with Delmarva Power. To answer the councilman's question, plans can be adjusted without Palmer's Row. The issue of Palmer's Row is really safety and access. So we're going to fence either side of Palmer's Row, and we're going to modernize equipment on either side. So to have the substation go partially into or the street go partially into the substation, even though it's fenced, creates a safety issue for the area. Prior to New Street being vacated, we have similar issues where people would, congregate, trash would constantly collect. People would just hide out there behind the wall that was put in for the previous development. So I believe we could do the upgrades without the portion of Palmer's Row. Possibly I would have to review with our engineers, but it has much to do with safety, both for our crews and the public, for vacating that portion. If that helps explain it, I'm sorry.
No, thank you, David. That was helpful. Did that
And
answer
again,
your question, Councilman Guy?
Yes, at least it gives me some clarity on what they're trying to accomplish. Now, I have a further question or comment. Should I proceed?
Yes, Councilman Guy.
Okay, so sometime when we're talking about land use, there's a big picture on what's happening in this area. So could you put that map back up there that shows these parcels while I ask my questions? Can you put that graphic back up?
WRTN? Oh, yep, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so down at the bottom of this graphic where it says the word key, there's like a curved area. What is that?
I believe it's kind of a green area, but we are not proposing any changes on land use. We're only referring to the small removal of the street, which is the hatched area in white and black.
No, my question is, what is that curved area? Is that a road or is that a river or like, what is that?
Again, I believe it's a green area. Let me check on Google Earth right now just to confirm. Give me 1 second, please.
Okay, while you're looking at that, here's why I want to know what that is, because there's a whole lot. What happens in land use is people are playing games, chess games, moving pieces, developing pieces, but nobody else knows what they're doing except the people who they told. So when you look at this map and you see all of those Delmarva parcels that they've accumulated, and then you see the Hope Commission, you can basically look at all that as one parcel, because as soon as the Delmarva tells the Hope Commission, okay, we're ready to buy that from them, they'll just sell it to them. And if some developer is trying to get rich off of what's getting ready to happen along the Brandywine River, we're all sitting here and we don't know what the game plan is. Meanwhile, folks are getting streets vacated, closing up streets. If anybody's familiar with that area, there's streets that are shut down that the public can't drive through. That happened back when I was on council. They start shutting down streets and we were arguing about it then. So I'm just saying, I probably don't have a problem with this, but I'd also like full disclosure on what's happening in this area in the broader context. Because I remember they were having these meetings about the development of this area and they only invited their friends and family to be on this group that was supposed to make decisions for the community. So it concerns me when I see this kind of stuff. So Maple Street, why didn't they ask for Maple Street to be vacated? I don't know the answer to that. So that's all I have. I just want folks, keep your eyes and ears open, because usually if you're not sitting at the table, where whatever's going on in the background is taking place, you find out later on that you help to do something that ends up harming the community. I'm not saying that's what this is, but it's kind of peculiar to cut the street off just halfway and leave the upper half. So what's the master plan for this area to want to leave part of it for the city to be responsible for, but to take another part of it and make it part of the blue parcels? That's all I have, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilman Guy. And I think David from Delmarva wanted to go to your comment. So I'm going to have him go first.
Thank you, ma'am. And yes, Councilman Guy, I understand your question completely. And if we had an aerial, I think it would help explain what's happening. Most of those parcels in blue were partially developed in, I would guess, 2012. We upgraded the transmission portion of the substation.
We can't hear, I can't hear him.
David, I must say, you're going in and out.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I apologize. It might be my internet connection. I apologize. But Councilman Guy, I just wanted to explain that most of those parcels that Ms. Molina showed you that are blue were purchased by Delmarva some time ago, and they were actually upgraded in 2012. Delmarva upgraded the transmission portion of the substation, bringing electricity in. And now we're upgrading the distribution portion, which is taking it out to the residents of the city. Maple Street was discussed by the council in 2012, and we rebuilt the street when we upgraded the substation to either side, and we left it so with the access to the river should the city ever decide to do anything. Palmer's Road currently dead ends at our substation, so there's really no through path to the city. But the gray area you saw on the map is actually accessed off of Buena Vista, which we are not, which goes in front of another one of our buildings, but we're not touching. And that gray area is actually a park. I apologize, I don't know the name of it, but it actually has some green space, some walking trails, and I think a basketball court. So just to give you an idea what's in the area, Delmarva has purchased what it intends to use. But I understand your question and just wanted to fill you in on some of the history of the site. That's all. Thank you.
Hey, David, too, would you be able to type that into the chat? Because I think you were still going in and out, so it's still hard for people to hear all of it.
Sure, ma'am.
Can you put some of that in the chat for us, please?
It's saying disabled.
Yeah, because the sound is pretty bad. So you were going in and out a lot. I just don't want people to miss what you were, as you were answering the question. We will go back then. Was there any? Yeah, because the sound is pretty bad.
Madam Chair, did you just recognize me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Maybe David answered this question, but I really couldn't hear him at all. What did he say the gray area was? And what happened to Pine Street? My understanding, I used to work on Pine Street, and Pine Street should be right behind there, and it's not labeled. It's not there at all.
There.
Maybe Mrs. Molina can answer that.
Just to get back on the gray area, has it labeled as Brandywine Mills Park, so it is a green area.
I'm familiar with that. I do know that's a green area. I could have told Councilman Guy that. But what happened to Pine Street?
I am looking for it on the map right now, and I do not see a Pine Street.
Pine Street is 2 blocks down.
I thought it was a block. It's 2 blocks down on Vandiver.
Yes, ma'am. It's 2 blocks down because that's more us by the Hope Commission. Pine would be down by Cheese Building. That's 2 blocks down, so you probably
Used to
would.
intersect with Waltz right there.
Oh, okay, I see Pine Street right now. Let me see if my exhibit.
Thank you.
Are.
No, I trust Councilwoman Oliver.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Councilwoman Oliver?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I was going to say, I was over that area with someone from Department of Transportation, and it's just a little green porch, little green land, and it's a dead end back there. So they the upgrade that pump station will help because it's just prostitution going on back there, and people back there doing illegal activities. That's why you always see, if you ride past Vanderbilt Avenue, you'll see a parked police car sitting there all the time, and people wonder why is that car sitting there? But that's that little partial. So they get a lot of calls from, matter of fact, someone was found back there beat up, I think last year, whenever it was. But anyway, it's a lot of negative activity back there. And so you have the kids coming from, the youth coming from the Job Corps. You have guys coming from the Hope Commission. And then you have a lot of people coming from the Clothing Bank, as well as Northeast Social Services. And then you have all them new homeowners over there. So it's just a little small area. It's not, like I said, I've been in conversation with Enid Wallace on a regular basis about this, and it's just an upgraded pump station. So that's all it is.
That's pretty cool. And Councilwoman McCoy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm a little familiar with this area as well. I do believe that if there are no housing there, I do see that everything's cut up in parcels. But if it's actually no housing and everything's going to be used by Delmarva, I do find that it's probably necessary to close that up. The only reason why we would have it open is to make certain that if there's any type of emergencies or such, to make certain that people are able to get out of their housing. But if it's no housing there, I don't see why it would be an issue to close up into the house.
Thank you, Councilwoman McCoy. And Councilman Guy.
Yes, is the representative from Delmarva still on the line?
He is. I just had him type in the chat because it was very hard to hear him. He's going in and out.
Okay, my question for him, he can put it in the chat if he wants to let us know what right across the street from all of this Delmarva property is a new housing development. Somebody just said that. And it's low to moderate income housing. And so I'm very much, given the large footprint, I'm interested in knowing what is Delmarva doing beneficial to that community as well. Because that's too large of a footprint to just come here, do stuff and leave and not help make it better in that area. So, if he could comment on that in the chat, because I'd be interested in knowing. That's all I have, Madam Chair.
Yep. Thank you, Councilman Guy. And I just had a question around, because I know previously the Hope Commission, some of their staff was parking toward that back side also. Would that be cut off to them now, or is that further back?
No further back.
Okay. Any other questions from council members? All right. And we can go to the public now. And I see DeMarquis Hall and then Aaron Goldner.
Yes, I just wanted to find out what exactly was going to be done. It's basically power plant over there or transformers, and we know that when that kind of operation is in a community, there are harmful side effects that happen. There's harmful, there's pain in the in what happens there. We got to put people over profit, and we got to at least find out, we got to know what these changes are going to do to the people that are living in the area that never wanted that power plant there in the first place. They never wanted Delmarva to build that right there in the middle of the city. So we have to know what it is that they're doing now in this area, however small it might be, whatever. I never heard anything that like Xanthi Oliver just said. I don't know anything about that, but in that area, there are houses, there are people that live right there. There's people that are affected by what's happening right there. So there should be a study conducted on what the effects are going to be immediately and what the effects are going to be down the road.
Thank you. And next, Miss Gardner, Miss Erin Gardner.
Hello and thank you. My name is Erin Goldner. Thank you.
Sorry, Erin.
That's okay. That's okay. Everybody does. It's strange. I feel very strongly that this area should stay open and there should be actually less blockage so people can go the full distance along Brandywine Creek. I also think it would be wonderful if Delmarva could be a supporter of that idea of having a pathway along Brandywine Creek. When I look at this and see a blocked meaning trying to close off an area that people can pass through, I see a problem. All the personal research I've done on this area, I didn't really know I guess I didn't really even know the name of that space. And there are ways to work around systems by, I guess, using terms that people wouldn't keyword search for. And maybe on older maps, it's not recognized as that. But I don't think it's a good idea to close off any space that is still available to the public and community members without having a new route that community members can use. Whatever the behaviors that are taking place in that area, it can be addressed in a more innovative way than just closing it off. I think it's so beautiful back there, and to start labeling it and stigmatizing it as something bad or negative makes me upset and might make the people that want to make more money, could be a strategy to make areas seem a certain way, like another individual was saying. But please don't close off any areas to the public community. It may seem like it's not perfect, but it is still peaceful and beautiful back there. And maybe it just needs some more lighting that maybe Delmarva could participate in helping with. Thank you for letting me say my 2 cents.
Thank you. All right. Councilwoman McCoy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Quick question then, because I'm aware of that street. Is there a pathway to access Brandywine Mills Park from Vander Avenue? Just curious. I didn't know who I should address that to.
I'm taking a look right now in one of the exhibits. Just give me 1 second, Councilwoman McCoy.
Madam Chair, may I say something? Looking at that.
Yeah, there's also
it's the creek back there. I mean, if you've ever walked back there, or went back there, it's a dead end. It's nowhere. It's not like nobody has any activity. It's the fence. It's the river. So if anybody wants to walk back there, you're gonna fall in the river.
I just want to say, by looking at the exhibit, it is all private property. So I don't know if there's an access, unless there's an access easement to it, but that I can see it is all owned by Delmarva.
Thank you. You said it just fall right into the creek, huh?
No, it's already owned by Delmarva. They just put them in the substation. It's not.
Right. No. Oh no. I am totally aware, and like I had stated, previously, because of the fact that there are no homes over there, then I did not have an issue with actually eliminating alleys. I just feel like sometimes you get those little cuts do definitely those dark spaces kind of get dark deeds happening in those little cuts.
Is that the end of your comment, Councilwoman McCoy?
Yes, I'm so sorry.
No, it's fine. We'll cut you off. All right. Is there any final comment from as far as the planning department or Councilwoman Oliver? Or any additional questions from council members? Are you good, Councilwoman Oliver?
Oh, yes, thank you.
Okay. All right, so this is an ordinance and will have to be voted out of committee. So is there a motion to move ordinance 20-49 out of committee?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And non-voting. All right, this will be on our agenda for next week as well for a full council meeting for full council vote. Thank you for your presentation this evening, Jessica, from the planning department.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, our
Excuse me.
yes.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. I understood that the ordinances, if they're passed tonight, would be on the December 3rd agenda.
Oh, okay, thank you for the
Okay, I
clarification.
want to make sure. All right.
Thank you.
You're
You know,
welcome.
I better not do. The schedule. Thank you. So it will be on the agenda for December 3rd. Thank you. And for our next agenda item is for ordinance 19-18, which is the rezone of parcel for at 700 Lee Boulevard. Councilwoman Gray, did you want to speak to that?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is an ordinance to rezone the parcel of land located at 700 Lee Boulevard from R2 one-family detached dwellings and one-family semi-detached dwellings to R5A1 low, medium density apartments, housing, zoning classifications. Basically, this states exactly what is to be done. This rezoning has been worked on for about 3 years. Starting approximately 3 years ago, Mr. Capano and his associates contacted various community organizations in the first district and proposed the plan to purchase this parcel, have it rezoned, and to build 3 residential apartments there. It was a 2-year process of talking to community members and residents, and our support of this rezoning was based on, let me get the exact title, a declaration of voluntary assessments. And in this declaration are at least 20 or 30 different things that the community members wanted with the new construction. So the one reason that this has been held for 2 years is that the number one request of the developer was that 37th Street be available for occupants of this new apartment complex to exit on. Prior to that, the only entrance and exit to the apartment complex was off of Lee Boulevard. So the community requested there be a second exit or easement off of 37th Street. Well, 37th Street, by some weird way, is owned by the owner of the Miller Road Shopping Center. So this had to be negotiated with the owner of the Miller Road Shopping Center, and he is a resident of New York. So after 1.5 years, finally, Mr. Capano and his organization has supplied me with an access easement agreement where he has gotten an agreement from the owner of the Miller Road Shopping Center to allow people to access 37th Street from the parking lot of the development. And there will be a rezoning hearing, I think probably December 3rd or the next meeting, where the planning department will present, will have a presentation. That's it, Madam Chair. I think we have representatives from Mr. Capano's company with us to answer any questions. And I think also the planning department is here if there are any questions that I can't address.
Thank you, Councilwoman Gray. Is there any questions, or there's not a presentation that goes along with this, correct?
No.
Okay.
The presentation will be by the planning
department.
Presentation will be by the planning department at the council meeting.
At the council meeting. Okay, I just wanted to check. So are there any questions from council members? All right, seeing none. Is there any questions from the public regarding this piece of legislation? All right, seeing none. Hold on, it's one person. Kathleen Butler.
Hi, I just wanted to make a comment, and I've been following this from the very beginning 3 years ago as the proposal was first made. I live across the street and down a half a block from this property, and it's of grave concern to my husband and me and my family. And as Councilwoman Gray represents it, that the community is in favor of it. I understand that she was part of the neighborhood association as president.
No, did we lose her?
I'm sorry, I'll try again. There have been other influential city administrators that have been part of this process, but I can assure you that the entire community is not in favor of this proposal, that it would significantly change the flavor of our neighborhood, that it would be 163 units, which is probably, and John Rago and Councilwoman Gray could correct me, but that's a significant percentage of the current population of Brandywine Hills. So they're increasing our neighborhood by many-fold, and not taking into consideration the impact it'll have on the people who live directly around that facility. Many of them live 7, 10, 12, 15 blocks away, and it won't impact them. So I can understand why they were willing to agree to this new arrangement, which really only reduced the number of units by 20 or 30 or 40 units, as opposed to 200 units to 163. It was not a significant reduction. After the neighborhood was very much against the proposal, then different information came in and different influence came in, and now it's greatly now it's been accepted by the Brandywine Hills Neighborhood Association, but not by all the members of the neighborhood. So I just wanted to let that be known, because I think it's only fair to represent the people that are most impacted by this very, very significant change to our neighborhood, the spirit and the feeling of the neighborhood. So that's what I wanted to say. Thanks very much.
Thank you. And is there any additional comment, Councilwoman Gray?
Yes, I will acknowledge what I think it was Ms. Butler said. I am currently president of Brandywine Hills Community Association, or I was when we were discussing this, but the Capano organization spoke to the First District Planning Council. They also went to Harlan Park Community Association. They spoke to Vincent White's Community Association, and they had several meetings with Brandywine Hills, and they were open to everyone. So I truthfully was not in support of this, and probably am not in support of it, because I do agree it's going to change the dynamics of our community, not just Brandywine Hills, it's going to change the dynamics of the First District. But this is a democracy, and the people who participated over the 3-year process agreed to this, this project based on the conditions. And I have 6 pages of conditions. It goes all the way from what direction the water is going to flow, what direction the light's going to be, how tall it is, how far back it's going to be, the egress. I mean, there are 6 pages of things that the Capano organization agreed to that people who participated in this 2-year process brought up as problems. So like I said, this is a democracy. Majority of the people that came to the meetings and stuck with it for the 2 years want this project. So I'm representing the public.
Thank you, Councilwoman Gray. Councilman Guy.
Yes, is the list of items that have been agreed upon, is that like an attachment to this legislation?
Well, no, and I wish it was, but once again, everything doesn't get put on. It's called a Declaration of Voluntary Assurances, and you know, it can be provided. I have a copy of it as an attachment, so I can provide it to anyone that would like a copy of it. But I don't think it could have. It could have been attached tonight. I just didn't think of that. It's about 6 pages long.
I mean, is it who is the agreement with?
The agreement is between the city, Brandywine Hills, and Riverside Hospital Redevelopment LLC, which is Louis Capano III. The agreement is with the city also. The city has presented verbally to the community that they will, if the Capano organization does not follow these agreements, the agreement they signed, then the city is supposed to legally make them follow it, or Brandywine Hills.
Okay, yeah, I would like to see a copy of that, because I just happened, that project is actually, if I remember correctly, it's not on the Brandywine Hills side, isn't it on the Harlan Park side?
Correct. It's not even in Brandywine Hills. Correct.
Right. So I'd like to see it, because I'm a resident of the Harlan Park side. So I'd like to see what the agreement is. Definitely. Thank you.
Okay, I'll send you a copy also of the assurance for the easement onto 37th Street, which is a separate document. That's what we've been waiting over a year for. That was the #1 request.
Thank you, Councilman Guy, and Councilwoman Oliver.
I just wanted to make a comment. We just went through that with that other ordinance and everybody wanted to see the attachments, but it's different now. That's all I have to say. But I don't live over there, but I mean, it's mighty funny. You just said that about that. Now, oh, you meant to send the attachment. Things happen, but I just wanted to make a comment, but I don't live in that area, so.
Well, I'll address, there is an attachment that shows where the development is, but the attachment for the declaration of assurances is not there. I understand. Remember, I said that.
Yeah, you said that's I'm messing with you.
Right.
That's all. That's okay. That's it.
Any other comments from council members? All right. I'll go back to the public one last time because I do see 2 hands raised. Kathleen again, and then Fred.
Hi, thank you. I just wanted to follow up with Councilwoman Gray's comment about the neighborhood being part of the conversation. And I know that there was a comprehensive group, but as a resident that lives a block away and a very, someone who is very interested as this proposal first came up, I was disappointed and concerned that neither I nor my husband or other neighbors that I know of on my block were communicated with about these future plans until they were quite finished. So, I know that things happen, but to say that this was a consensus is kind of concerning to me, since people that were very closely involved were not engaged in the conversation. And I just want to suggest that I appreciate, and I've read all the voluntary assessments and assurances, but it makes me concerned that, or question that Mr. Capano and his company was so willing to come up with these assurances, which really come down to things like what type of plants, how far away from the road, things that may seem significant, but as an aggregate, really don't have a huge impact on the fact that they're adding 163 units in what's basically a 1 square block area, and really changing the whole nature of our neighborhood. And I suspect, maybe I'm cynical, but for Mr. Capano to be so agreeable to these assurances makes me suspect that he's very happy, and that maybe we should have been a little more aggressive in what we were asking him to comply with. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think Fred next.
Fred Mitzdorfer from Richards, Layton and Finger, and we're counsel for Mr. Capano and Riverside Development. I just wanted to follow up on a few things. First, to Councilwoman Gray's point, both the easement agreement that we worked out with the adjacent owner of the Home Depot Center and these assurances are recorded documents. They're of record with the Recorder of Deeds office and are enforceable both by the city and the Civic Association in the surrounding area. So both of those could take action in the event that folks were unhappy with our clients, conformance with these conditions. And then just to chime in on the most recent point, and again, Councilwoman Gray laid this out, I thought, very articulately. This was not a short process. There was a lot of meetings, I believe over 12, with multiple different constituencies. And through this long, multi-year process is when these assurances were, brought to our attention and agreed upon. So I would reject the idea that this was some, sweetheart deal that happened very quickly. There was a lot of feedback, a lot of input, and a lot of changes that were made to, hear the community's concerns, as Councilwoman Gray put it, and do the best to, address those concerns. And we think the assurances, which again are public record, did that. And if there's a need, we are happy again to circulate both of those documents, which are recorded publicly, to any of the members of this committee.
Thank you. And screen switching, Councilman Guy.
Anybody who's doing a project of this nature, how many units did they say it was?
I think it's 300.
300 housing units?
Wait, 256 or through Mr. Minster probably can correct me. I have to go through my notes. I have thousands of pages, sorry to say. This is, like I said, was 3 years. I think it's
The representative was just there. Do they know?
I want to say answer again if you want him to. He has his hand raised. Councilwoman Gray.
Yes, please let him answer.
Okay.
I think I have 160 units, which is approximately 300 people. 60% will be 2 bedrooms, 30% will be 1 bedrooms, and 10% will be 3 bedrooms. Is that correct, Mr. Minster?
So I do not have the specific breakdown of the units, but I'm not sure that that's in the Declaration of Restrictions, but the restrictions under Part 2, subparagraph E, as in Edward, the maximum number of units that our client agreed to build on the property is 163. So it is, there's other restrictions there. I do not see restrictions on the number of bedrooms in the units, but I believe that there's an attachment that shows the elevations. But Councilwoman Gray, I'd have to get back to you on the breakdown of the specific types of units within those buildings. But that would be the total number of units is 163.
Thank you. I was just giving that as information. I'm not sure that that will be the exact breakdown once the buildings are built, but we asked for estimations. And I do have the declaration and what you're talking about in front of me.
Yeah, I just wanted the rough number, the 163.
There's
So
163.
I'm fine
And
with that.
304 and
Oh.
340 parking spaces.
Okay, so the reason why I wanted to get a little bit of clarity on that number is, first of all, on the Brandywine Hills side of all of this are a multitude of people who I personally know have the financial wherewithal to go and challenge the rezoning if they have a problem with the rezoning. So we're not talking about a neighborhood where, in a lot of neighborhoods, rezonings come and the people just can't fight City Hall. Folks can fight City Hall in Brandywine Hills if they choose to. So that's not my call, but I just want to point that out for the rest of the people in the public who's watching this. Because there shouldn't be wealthy people being taken advantage of unless they're willing to be taken advantage of. So when you're talking about 163 units, I don't know if everybody's aware, but there was a major plan for Wilmington by the Newcastle County Chamber of Commerce to strategically put 5,000 more housing units in Wilmington, basically to be able to take over political control of Wilmington. Okay. And so while we sit here and every once in a while somebody wants to build 150 units over here, 150 over here, the game plan is to bring 5,000 so that in future primary elections, folks can just totally control the politics of Wilmington. So I'm interested in knowing, in the marketing material for these units, who are these units being built for? Is it low income? Is it moderate income? Is it mixed? What's the nature of the makeup? Are there commitments for people at different income levels to be able to live in these locations? Are they all market rate? What's the facts and circumstances? Because generally speaking, in urban areas, some folks try to limit or control who can live where. So can somebody tell me, how are these properties being marketed? What's the income requirements to be able to obtain them? Are they clearly just plain rental units? Are they condominium units?
Mr. Minster, they're rental because we wanted condominiums. We asked for condominiums. They're rentals, but I'll let Mr. Minster address who they're going to advertise to.
Sorry, I believe I'm unmuted. Again, within the restrictions themselves, there's not a limit on what the rents are. It's not a rent control, and this isn't a project done through the DSHA, the Delaware State Housing Authority, in terms of them being low income units. My understanding from the client is that they will be market units and they will be marketed for folks in the community in the surrounding area. So that they're not anything different than market units would be, I guess, the response. Does that answer your question, Councilman?
Councilman Guy.
Is he saying they're just market rate housing?
Yes.
Okay.
My understanding is they're going to be upscale apartments. I don't know what upscale. That's the reason I wanted someone else to answer it. I don't know what the price point is going to be. The goal was to bring an income base, more of an income base into the city.
Okay, so this is part of the 5,000.
I would think so. I've heard that also.
Yeah, this is part of the effort to take over political control of Wilmington by adding population of higher income people in certain pockets, so that when redistricting comes, the next council, you won't have as much diversity as you have now. So I just want you all to know, every time you see one of these, it was part of the master plan at the beginning of our cycle. And the goal is 5,000 units of this nature. And several of you have these projects in your districts. And they make you come and want you to have photo ops, but they don't tell you that this is being built to put you out of your spot in the future. That's all I have.
Thank you, Councilman Guy. Councilman Gray, do you have anything else? I see one other hand. Can we Lewis in the public side? Lewis?
Is that Louis Capano? Do we have a last name?
It doesn't have a last name.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you now.
Can you all hear me?
Yes.
You can hear me now? This is Louis Capano. I'm sorry, I did not put my last name on there. Yes. Question as to what kind of units it is. It is intended to be market rate units. There is no Section 8 or low income requirement. So that's not the intent of the job. With respect to the bringing 5,000 units into the city, I just want you to know that my was not to sway any sort of political movement in the city. I find it to be a nice neighborhood with good access to the highways, to the city, to the suburbs, to office. I think that I'd like to think that we build a nice product, and recently we've been building multifamily units in several areas of the state, and our new product generally is occupied by a combination of retirees and millennials. So it's a great mix. And I just want to, sort of go on the record that this is not a politically driven job. We have been talking to and negotiating with all of the community and the different constituents that have interest in this for several years. We started at a larger number, certainly over 200, and we landed at 160 based on sort of a back and forth between the community and ourselves as what would work economically to make the job work. So it really wasn't, this isn't out of the blue. We just grabbed a number and made a couple of changes to the plan, and here we are. So I really think that we've done our best with Councilman Gray and some of the other stakeholders to listen to and appease the community at whole. So, I thank you for my 2 minutes, and if you have any questions for me, I am happy to answer.
Thank you for your comments. Councilman Gray, is there anything else?
Yes, I just want to make it clear and point out, since I stated I was not in favor of this project, I made an effort to contact all the community organizations in the first district, even before I was on council, and ask them to come to the meetings. And to say to Mr. Capano's credit, he did individually contact the different community organizations and met with them. And Miss Butler was saying she wasn't aware. If she's a member of Brandywine Hills, we have a quarterly newsletter, and the meetings were advertised in the newsletter for a year or more. So unfortunately, sometimes people aren't aware of things until it gets toward the end. But we made an effort, I made, and our community made an effort to include everyone in the district. And some people did come and they got discouraged because it was a big project and there were a lot of voices. But those that stuck it out, we have this 6-page list of assurances. And I must say to everyone, if you think they aren't being followed once this project gets started, then you should go to the mayor. He is the one that has guaranteed that he will keep Mr. Capano's feet to the fire and, be responsible to follow through on the assurances. Thank you.
Yeah. This is an ordinance. So it does have to be voted out of committee. And from my understanding, Councilwoman Gray, you did say that this still has to go it will still go on the public still be a public comment period at a council meeting, or is this the final?
No, at the council meeting, I was told that the planning department will present a hearing on the rezoning. So we
Okay.
will take a break during our council meeting, and then we'll have the hearing for rezoning. And then we'll go back to council meeting and we will vote on it. So the hearing for rezoning is a public meeting and they will get 15 days notice. I think it's going to be on the December 9th. I'm not sure.
Can we check that, Mr. Barbe, as far as the date on that, or Gwyneth, do you have the date on that?
I believe it was scheduled for December 10th for the public hearing and third and final.
Okay, so our last day of council. Okay. All right. Thank you. So this again has to be voted out of committee so that it can be on the December 10th agenda. That will go along with public comment for additional regarding rezoning from the planning department. Is there a motion to move ordinance 19-18 out of committee?
Second.
My own motion? Can I move my own legislation?
So moved.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
All right, Councilman Oliver, you second?
Correct.
Okay.
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Non-voting. All right. Again, this will be on the agenda for December 10th, where there will also be additional time for a public hearing portion that will be a part of our meeting on December 10th. Thank you, Councilwoman Gray. Next on our agenda is ordinance 20-44, which is to rezone the 16 parcels that are located around the boundaries of Madison and Jefferson streets. We also have the Amtrak Railroad corridor, I-95, and the city's southern boundaries for a waterfront, to make them a waterfront residential commercial zoning classification. And Gwyneth, are you speaking to this evening?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you can go ahead and get started.
Okay. Good evening. I'm Gwyneth Kaminsky, Planning Manager with the Planning Department, and I am making the presentation for Ordinance 20-44. Next slide. Oops. Okay, you have gone ahead to the next slide. This ordinance addresses the proposal to rezone 16 parcels of land within the waterfront area from the existing W2 waterfront manufacturing commercial zoning to W4 waterfront residential commercial zoning. This rezoning action will expand the existing W4 district situated to the immediate east and will encourage an environment which supports the continued growth of mixed residential and commercial retail uses like those which have already established along the Christina riverfront. Next slide. This rezoning action was prompted by a request from Beach Street Property LLC to rezone a single parcel of land at 601 South Madison Street, shown here circled in red, from W2 to W4 to allow for a planned mixed-use development on the site. The planning department took the initiative to amend this request by including additional parcels from the larger W2 district in an area generally bounded by Jefferson and Madison Streets, Amtrak Railroad Corridor, I-95, and the city's southern boundary. Next slide, please. The 16 parcels in question are owned by 5 entities, including Beach Street Property LLC, Bacini Pollen Group, Delaware Stadium Corporation, Pet and Narrow Management LLC, and the Riverfront Development Corporation. Next slide. This rezoning action will bring the area into conformance with the recommendations of the city's latest comprehensive plan entitled Wilmington 2028, a comprehensive plan for our city and communities. This plan identifies the rezoning site as part of the Browntown Hedgeville neighborhood, and the future land use map calls for waterfront mixed use in this area. Waterfront mixed use is defined as medium density residential with ground floor retail, office buildings, civic centers and hotels, restaurants, retail services, nightlife, performance venues, and recreation. The uses permitted in this land use category are consistent with those permitted under the proposed W4 zoning classification. This rezoning action will bring the waterfront area into conformance with the comprehensive plan. Next slide. The next 2 slides will illustrate the zoning history of the subject area. The land between I-95 and the Christina River is shown in green, was originally zoned M2 General Industrial with W1 waterfront zoning along the riverfront added in the 80s. This area was then rezoned to W2 in 1992. Much of the zoning south of the green area was actually established through annexation. The yellow area shown was annexed into the city in 1988 and zoned W2 and W4 as shown. And the blue area was annexed in 1998 and zoned W4. Next slide. In 1997, the eastern portion of the green area was rezoned to W4, and in 1999, the area to the west of I-95, shown in pink, was annexed and zoned W2. And finally, the red triangle was annexed and zoned W2 in 2018. Next slide. And as a result of these actions, you can see the boundaries of the current W2 area being proposed for rezoning to W4. Next slide. The current W2 zoning provides for areas where manufacturing uses are well established and where commercial development is suitable because of locations near arterial highways. Permitted uses include manufacturing, fabricating, processing, and repair establishments, warehousing, wholesale sales, and outdoor storage. The proposed W4 zoning category is designed to provide areas adjacent to the central business district and residential neighborhoods where medium to high density residential, commercial, retail, and office development can take place. Next slide. Despite these differences, the W2 and W4 districts both allow offices, banks, and financial institutions, retail stores and services, restaurants, commercial marine uses, commercial recreation, public service uses, and daycare homes and centers. Next slide, please. The regulations for these 2 districts are also very similar. They both permit developments to a height of 6 stories and require a building setback from the riverfront that ranges from 30 to 50 feet. The floor area ratio and building coverage ratios are also very similar, and proposed development in both districts is subject to review and approval through the waterfront development review process. Next slide, please. Looking at specific land use in the area, the rezoning site is bounded on the west by the I-95 corridor, which presents a physical and visual barrier between the waterfront and the Browntown Hedgeville neighborhood and Maryland Avenue commercial corridor. To the east, between the rezoning site and Christina River, land uses include multifamily residential with first floor retail, office buildings, financial institutions, restaurants, hotels, museums, and theater venues, all of which were developed under the existing W4. Next slide, please. Turning our attention to the uses within the area being rezoned, the 4 parcels of land are situated north of Beach Street. The first is owned by RDC and includes the city's real-time control system operations center and an accessory parking lot. The Penn Cinema is located on a parcel owned by BPG. There are 2 parcels that are split zoned with W2 and W4 zoning. The first is owned by BPG and includes the residences at Harlan Flats, which is located largely within the W4 portion of that parcel. And the second parcel is owned by Pet Narrow Management LLC and includes a vacant low-rise building situated on the W4 side with accessory parking on the W2 side. And the rezoning action will correct this split zone condition. Next slide. Moving south, 2 parcels of land are situated between Beach Street and Frawley Drive. The one on the west side has been improved as a parking lot and is owned by RDC. The one on the east side is a vacant lot owned by Beach Street Property LLC, which is the site of the proposed mixed-use development proposal, which initiated this rezoning action. Next slide. Finally, 10 parcels are situated below Frawley Drive. 3 are owned by Delaware Stadium Corporation and include the Frawley Stadium, Judy Johnson Ball Field, and the North and South Stadium parking lots. 4 parcels are owned by Pet Narrow Management LLC and include an occupied office building with parking, an accessory lot serving the Shipyard Center, an industrial building stack remnant, and a vacant parcel. In addition, 1 parcel owned by RDC includes the Chase Convention Center, and 1 parcel owned by BPG includes the Westin Hotel. And I will give credit to Google Maps for the photos used in this presentation. Next slide. There are no negative impacts resulting from the proposed rezoning action. All of the land uses within the zoning area that I just described, with the exception of the Westin Hotel, are currently operating as a matter of right under the existing W2 zoning and will continue as a matter of right under the W4 zoning. The Westin Hotel is currently permitted as a ZBA special exception use in the W2 district and will become a matter of right use under the proposed W4 zoning. And finally, the split zoning condition currently affecting the 2 parcels I spoke of will be eliminated by the proposed rezoning. Next slide, please. Regarding outreach, on August 31st, planning briefed City Council President Shabazz and 4th District Council Member Harley on the rezoning proposal. On September 23rd, planning staff met with the affected property owners, and it's important to note that during that meeting, the issue of commercial parking structures was raised. The commercial parking issue is significant as ongoing development continues to replace existing surface lots long used by riverfront visitors. Commercial parking lots and structures are permitted under the existing W4 zoning as a matter of right, but would require Zoning Board of Adjustment approval as a special exception under the proposed W4 zoning. However, approval of special exceptions is usually granted in cases where proposed development is consistent with the waterfront standards and will not adversely affect neighboring properties. And there are no immediate plans to build commercial parking within the rezoning area. This ordinance was introduced at Council's September 17th meeting A public hearing was held at the October 20th Planning Commission meeting, after which the commission voted to recommend that ordinance 20-44 be approved. Council's public hearing is scheduled to consider the matter on November 19th. Next slide, please. In summary, while the W2 and W4 zoning districts share certain similarities, the W2 does not permit residential uses, which are a prominent feature along the waterfront. Further, the W2 does permit manufacturing, warehousing, and other more intensive uses, which have the potential to negatively impact existing and future development. By rezoning the area from W2 to W4, compatible land uses will continue to develop in an expanded W4 district without changing the nature and character of the waterfront. The rezoning will also implement the recommendations of the Wilmington 2028 plan. And this concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Gwyneth. I see a hand from Councilwoman Gray.
Thank you, Chair Dixon. A lot to digest, and I definitely didn't get all of it. But am I to understand there's going to be less parking down there? I was down there where you said that surface parking is going to be taken up and rezoned so that it can be built on?
No, that's not what I said at all. I was raising the issue of commercial parking and what's permitted under the existing zoning versus the proposed zoning. This is an issue that came up at the property owner meeting, so I thought it was important to inform council of it in case it were to come up at the public hearing at council. The rezoning doesn't affect existing parking. That's just a part of the process of redevelopment of the waterfront. But commercial parking at the waterfront is a serious issue because as development continues, whether it be in the W2 district or the existing W4 district, it is taking up land that people are used to parking on, regardless of whether it was a proper parking lot. So this will not directly affect parking, but should a developer want to put in commercial parking structure, they would simply have to go to the zoning board for a special exception.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Gray. Is there any other questions from council members? Councilwoman Cool, I think you come in every time.
You said you what?
I hear you come in before I see your hand raised.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question was simply, even though you've actually stated several times that this is proposed, the area that's proposed is Browntown Hedgerow area. I actually was not really part or considered when it came to talking about this planning. So, which is the 6th district, those two communities. I am directly on the that border of the 95, and I do realize that the W2 changing to W4 does not impact me, impact my district directly, but it is my border. So I just wanted to make certain that I don't have the comprehensive plan in front of me. And I do recall when, I had some real questions because I just had a variance done right at that border. And I don't recall this being really something that we had discussed when Mr. Inden had, when he had made his presentation. I'm kind of like guessing or whatever because I don't have a, photographic memory. Please turn this down, AJ. Thank you. I'm sorry. I'm sharing the space. So I'm just basically trying to remember about whether or not this area was truly discussed when we had back and forth with planning when it came to the 2028 plan. I just don't really recall it. So I just wanted to make certain that this, that I just wanted to take a better look at what 2028 looked like, and whether or not this is something that was brought to our attention before we actually had agreed to that plan. That's basically it. I just wanted to make certain I made that statement.
I believe you're referring to the recent rezoning along Maryland Avenue of the NVF site for apartments. That was a rezoning that went from M2 to residential. It is removed from the waterfront and physically separated by the I-95 border. That happened prior to this rezoning request, I believe. But I was under the impression we had discussed this with you. But as you stated, it's not in within your district proper. It is within the Browntown-Hedgeville comp plan, and you know, all I can tell you is that that comp plan calls for the waterfront area to the east of I-95 to be rezoned from the W2 to the W4 to support the residential and retail uses that are already taking place down there, and to prevent any heavy industry or manufacturing uses from coming in and possibly having a negative impact.
Yeah, I'm sorry. May I continue, Madam Chair?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So yes, so the NVF building is exactly what I was speaking of, but that what I really wanted to refer to was when we actually had the comp plan, when Mr. Indian actually brought that to our attention, and the things that I actually took notice to that were basically in question of what we wanted to see coming to the future of Wilmington, what it looked like when it came to the zoning. The only thing that was actually in question and what we wanted to make certain that we that I remember bringing to my attention that was so close to my border was the NVF. I do remember South Market Street. They wanted to change things over there. This area here, I don't remember actually being part of that change. And for this to come up so soon after we've already voted on that comp plan, this is the reason why I'm asking these questions, because in my mind, I don't remember that being part of what we wanted to change for the 2028 plan. That was basically.
If I can speak to that.
Okay.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Director.
Yeah, this area is similar to the NVF property. If you look at the future land use map, which kind of dictates where we need to go, that has to be consistent with our zoning according to the state regulations. The NVF was the same way. It was put in there as a mixed use development rather than manufacturing, because manufacturing didn't make much sense in the area where the NVF property was. And likewise, this area across on the waterfront, the W2 is a more of a manufacturing type zone, and we had put that in there also as a mixed use area to be consistent with the areas that are right along the waterfront. So that's, if you look at the future land use plan, you'll see that. And that's the kind of thing that we have to keep updated with our zoning map. It has to be consistent. We have basically 18 months within the time that we adopt the comprehensive plan to do that. And that's why really this was something that we were going to move on regardless of the proposed development. So I hope that clarifies it a little bit.
May I follow up?
Yes.
Thank you. All right. Well, Ms. Inda, it does clarify it some, but the thing is that that when we actually had decided to hold on to voting on the comp plan, and we were given this information like this is something that was urgent, and that you worked on it this many years, this much time, and this is something that needed to happen. And when I made certain that I had those conversations, because these things affected my area directly, but I actually took a look at the plan in its overall form. So for all this time for us to have actually been looking at what we were going to do with zoning for the next 10 years, for this to just come up when we just, to me, voted on this plan, to me just seems a little, I just don't know. It just seems a little, I don't even know what the word is right now. I'm just stating that for all of the time that it actually took for us for this plan to go through, and this is for the next 10 years, because it is now 2028. We were told that we had to vote on this plan to make sure things were going to go right for the next 10 years, and then this happens when we've already voted on this plan just a few months ago.
Yeah, well, that, yeah, again, according to, state code, and again, there's not many areas like this in the city. I think these are the two most prominent areas that were looked at differently than they currently are, they currently are in our current zoning code, to state that, again, the areas have changed significantly since the last time the plans, I guess, were updated, and this made the most sense. And then again, it's not, the timing is something that the state dictates for us to keep our plans consistent, and that's why we are moving on it, because again, they give us 18 months from the time that the plan is adopted, so we have that time period, and that's why, one of the main reasons why we're going ahead with this. And I don't anticipate that there are other areas like that. So
I have nothing further, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And Councilman Guy.
Yes, it's so funny, and it's not funny, because I feel the councilwoman's pain, if you will, because it's an uneasy feeling. That's appropriate, uneasy feeling. And I remember telling all of you all to pay attention when folks are telling you that they want you to rush and pass a comprehensive plan. And if you remember, I fought for everybody to have an extra week to get to go back to make sure that folks weren't pulling any kind of games on you. And I told everybody that a lot of times there's things that folks are planning on doing and they don't tell you about it. So they want you to agree to changes to a comp plan, but they know that they're already planning on rezoning. So in this case, I don't know enough of the details to know whether you folks are playing us in a sense. But when the story starts off with one organization, 16 parcels, one organization, if I was listening correctly, wanted to rezone one parcel of land. And then all of a sudden, the city folks decide that they throwing in an extra 15 parcels. Now, before I move from there, I want to make sure I'm being accurate with what I just said. Is that accurate? It was one person who requested it, and then the city said, oh, let's do these extra 15. Is that accurate from the planning department?
Yeah.
Planning department's from our perspective, we have a comprehensive plan and we have to implement it. And those other parcels were part of that. And that would have happened regardless. This was just happened within that time frame. So yes, one parcel kind of instigated it.
Right. So what I'm just saying to you all is, yeah, you should have an uneasy feeling when something like that happens, because I don't remember anybody telling us when we voted on the comp plan that, oh, by the way, there's these 16 other properties that we're planning on rezoning. But now what they're saying is they need to be rezoned to be consistent with the comp plan. What I'd like to know is, were these 16 parcels consistent with the previous comp plan? Can anybody answer that?
We'd have to look into that, unless when you have an answer for that.
Well, Madam Chair, if I may, I would like to just clarify, we're not changing the comprehensive development plan.
No, that's not my question, though. My question's real specific. So hold on a second.
Yes, I would like to make my statement and then answer your specific question.
Madam Chair, could you hold up for 1 second? Could you hold this up for a second? I don't mind if she wants to add extra comments, but I want to know, are these 16, I didn't ask about changing the comp plan now. I asked, are these 16 parcels currently consistent with what the previous comp plan was? That's my question.
What the previous comp plan? It doesn't
That's
matter.
my question.
We have a current comp plan that was adopted a year ago. It made recommendations for land use in the Browntown, in all of the city's areas, but this specific area is Browntown Hedgeville. Specific recommendations that included this W2 area along the waterfront, 16 properties that we've identified, and it's up to planning to implement those recommendations by means of zoning. That's how the comp plan works.
Madam Chair, could you hold this up for a second? Because my question has nothing to do with the current comprehensive plan. My question is the current zoning of these properties consistent with the previous comp plan? That has no reference to the current comp plan. That's what I want to know.
And I would suggest that it's irrelevant because when the comp plan is updated, we review the trends in land use and zoning and make decisions and recommendations based on how things are developing and the trends that are taking place. And so the comp plan was updated, and that's how it works. When a comp plan is updated and adopted, it replaces prior versions of the comp plan.
I'm gonna ask you again. Well, hold on. Herb, is Herb still here?
Still here.
Okay.
We can look into that and get back to you. We don't have that answer tonight.
Yes, Madam President. I know you understand that when I'm asking this department, are these properties zoned consistent with the previous comp plan? That's a very easy question to ask in order for a staff person to tell me that is irrelevant. No, it is relevant. It's a fact-based question. So can they give us a fact answer? Are these 16 parcels, is their current zoning consistent with what the previous comp plan was?
We will have to get back to you on that.
Yeah.
Okay,
I don't have the answer.
Okay, so what I need everybody on council to understand is this, is it's like the game where they have the shells and they play a shell game with you. So let's say hypothetically that these parcels were consistent with the previous comprehensive plan. So if they were, then they should have been able to share more information with the person whose district this is about what the plans were when they changed the comprehensive plan. So for them to not answer this fact question, right, is not appropriate. So now they're telling us that these have to be zoned to be consistent with the current comp plan. If the previous comp plan was consistent with these parcel zoning, they wouldn't be able to say to us that it needs to be changed. So did you all create this need to change by changing the comp plan?
Previous comp plan is out of date. That's why you do comp plans. The state requires us to make comp plan updates every 5 to 10 years. And things change. The previous comp plan probably was not relevant to this day and age when things have changed significantly on the waterfront from the past, from 10 years past. So that's why we had a very public process. Numerous people were invited. We talked to any council person that wanted us to talk to them about it. So there's no hidden shell games in this as you might think there are. This was a very public process.
Madam Chair, we went through this public process, and I'm gonna leave it at this, because I want the councilwoman to think about what people told her and didn't tell her, okay? We just were told that one person wanted to make a change and they added in 15 extra people. And if they told you this is what they were gonna do before you voted on the comp plan, that's one thing. But if they didn't tell you that there were already plans, but they knew there were plans, that's how monopoly is played. So there's people who's able to take advantage of the change in the comp plan. Now there's a neighborhood right next to these properties We just got finished talking about the first district declarations and agreements that was reached with the community. So now we're getting ready to do a reason why they want to do the rezoning now is because they don't want to have to reach any agreement if there's impacted on the neighborhoods nearby. This is 16 parcels of land. They're going to make multiple millions of dollars just by us changing the zoning on a piece of property. Just paper money created. If the property is worth 1,000, then it's worth 10,000. Now, but what are they doing to help that neighborhood right there that's hurting? If they're doing this much rezoning, what are the agreements on what are they doing for the people in the nearby community? So there may not be any 4th district residents right there, but I can see that there's an adjacent council district with a whole bunch of homes, etc. So are they getting their community center built and paid for? What are they getting? Or are they just sitting back watching people make millions of dollars and all the traffic's gonna come through their neighborhood and surround their area? And they still sitting there with their children running in the street with nothing to do. So what is the side deal? Because there was a side deal over for the rich people in Brandywine Hills. What's the side deal for the poor people? See, I told you all about this rezoning and all this stuff. You don't let folks come in, get no rezonings if they don't have a side deal for the community. Side deal for the rich, no side deal for the poor. That's all I have. You're right to be uneasy, Councilwoman, and you need to be brought to the table on this. Maybe they didn't bring you to the table because it wasn't your district, but your district has more people that are closer to this area than almost anybody does. You in the 4th, but your people are really going to get it. You deserve, your community deserves something out of this. That's all I have, Madam Chair. I'm done with it. I told y'all before to watch out for this stuff.
I just saw that Councilwoman Harley joined us. Did you want to speak to this legislation? And then I do see your hand, Councilman Johnson.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Thank you, Madam Chair. So first of all, even though I respect Councilman Guy's insight or his opinion in terms of what he thinks is going on, but ever since, number one, we started to study on a comprehensive plan, going to different meetings to make sure that the community was involved and engaged. I worked with Mr. Enden, the planning department, to even identify areas where the community could come, the east side, a South Bridge, in addition to all the other communities within the 4th district. And as it relates to these parcels, I have met with Gwen, I met with everyone involved in addition to the community to make sure that they understood what was happening and how these parcels being rezoned will be an opportunity to bring more life, more economic development into this particular area. So yes, there are some plans and I know what those plans are. And since I am an advocate for those that are that's disadvantaged, as well as those what we will consider the advantage, you can trust and believe that I am their advocate and I'm there. That's part of my job to make sure that no one is taken advantage of. And I fully understand the plans and I'm engaging the community, and the community is looking forward to these parcels getting rezoned so we can bring more economic development into the community. Now, if I didn't take the time as the representative to understand from Gwen, to understand from Herb, to understand from the community, and to understand from those different entities that are interested in being involved in some of the development down there, which is not BPG, because I know for some people, they think everything that deals with rezoning has something to do with BPG. But no, I didn't meet with BPG. So I want to say to the committee that I really wish that you vote this out of committee. And if there's additional questions that anyone would like to ask or meet with anyone, you have time to do that before this is on the floor. But this is the 4th district, and there are other things that I'm advocating for for people in Southbridge that have a lot to do with this rezoning as well. So thank you, Madam Chair, for this opportunity. And trust me, I'm at an event, but when I learned what was going on, I wanted to get on because I spent a lot of time in a lot of meetings to make sure that I understood this legislation. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Councilwoman Harley. And Councilman Johnson.
Yes, I would like to just follow up because I was involved in trying to get the comprehensive plan approved, and I think what Councilwoman Harley is doing and continues to do is the right way. I mean, she's done her homework, she's engaged with the residents, and this is what the residents want. Now, I do understand Councilwoman McCoy, this does abut on her district, and I think there should be a further talk with the community about going forward. But I think as of right now, the best use for increasing opportunities is to get not only residential, but some commercial places where people can be employed. I don't think we need heavy manufacturing again in that area. So, I pass through that area every day because it butts up against, my district as well. And I think it's a good move. So, hats off to Councilwoman Harley for doing the homework, doing the engagement, doing the work on the ground. And, I hope the committee, has faith in our colleague that she did the work and she is going to make sure it benefits the community to the maximum. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Johnson. Councilwoman McCoy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to make a statement, just to be clear. I am not stating that there was any underhand. What I'm stating is the fact that on multiple times, this area has been called the Browntown Hedgeville Plan. Like this whole comprehensive plan. This section is called Browntown Hedgeville, and I have not been brought to have not been talked to about it. Now, Ms. Gwyneth actually stated that she thought that I was, but I had not been. Now, the other thing is, now that I do realize about this plan, the reason why myself and Councilwoman Harley actually kind of had words at one time, because she was stating that she's part of Browntown. And I'm like, no, you're not. I'm like, Browntown ends at the 95 corridor. Fourth district starts on the other side. There are no houses on Browntown in 4th district, and we had that back and forth, and this kind of explains why that confusion came about. So what I'm saying is that because of the fact that there are more residents or whatever, the one that she considers that need this help, that actually live in Browntown, which is only a stone's throw away, not a couple of communities, but a stone's throw away from this actually divide, you would think that I would actually be spoken to or made aware of this upcoming variance. That was basically it. So I just wanted to make certain that that statement went out. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Councilwoman Oliver.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to make a statement to reiterate what Gwen said. This was brought up on September the 17th in October. So, I don't have a dog in the fight, but I have been involved with the comprehensive plan myself. But this conversation about the zoning was brought up on September the 17th and in October. So with that being said, I think somebody should have been able either to follow up with Gwen or have a side conversation with her or either Michelle. Maybe Councilman, y'all two could have sat down, but this is not nothing new tonight because I'm familiar with the zoning and it's not even my district. So I just wanted to let that for the record.
Can I please speak to that? I'm like, if we're talking about September 7th, the September 7th or 17th, the one that actually just passed, I said, I do realize that we had a lot going on. And most of the times when I come to these committee meetings, this is the time that I actually ask the questions in that. I am probably at more of these committee meetings just because of the fact that I want to find out what's going on. And I have not taken that time, whatever, to talk to the sponsor before, but I can ask these questions now. Thank you very much.
Madam Chair, my follow-up.
Can we go to some other
I
hands?
no, because she was responding to what I said. I was just saying, I just remember seeing this on 2 different occasions because I don't have a dog in this fight. I was just saying so she might be right. I was just saying, I remember seeing this, this information about the ordinance because I had asked Michelle about it. That's why I'm sorry.
Understood. Councilwoman Harley.
Oh, yes, thank you. I just wanted to say, no, I've never been confused about Browntown being in the 4th district. There was a situation when someone had a need and I addressed it, and there is a fine line, but just for the record, I'm not confused. I need that to be on the record. And we didn't have words, Councilmember McCoy. We just had a conversation. But what I want to say is this. I'm not sure as to why there was not more engagement, but I mean, it's not too late for you to ask questions. You're asking the questions here in the committee, and whatever other questions that you may have to ask Gwen or Herb, it's not too late. So I'm not sure. Well, there's not an issue in terms of you finding out more information or having more questions. So I'm just saying it's not too late to do that. And I welcome us making sure that we all are on the same page as it relates to moving forward, and especially Browntown. Browntown is adjacent to the 4th district. And so I'm always interested in Browntown coming up and being an attractive neighbor to the 4th district. So we are on the same page, and I'm sorry that you didn't. I'm not sure why you wasn't involved or wasn't able to figure out what was going on, but I'm just saying that it's not too late. And I welcome any other questions that you may have as it relates to this. And going forward, I will make sure when there's legislation that includes your district that I will reach out to you. So hopefully we won't have this issue again going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Guy.
Yes, when you all sent out the legal notices regarding these rezonings, were they limited to only 4th district property owners?
The legal notice is actually published in the News Journal and is available to everyone. The public notice that we mail is to property owners and the area adjacent. And in this case, the W4 district property owners were included.
Did any of the Browntown people get notified?
It's beyond the normal boundaries of what we use to provide public notice. However, our agenda also goes out with the public notice to our standard mailing, which includes community groups and other interested parties.
Can you put that map back up?
Yeah, I wanted to make a point of clarification if we could get the Browntown map back up. The neighborhood boundaries in the comp plan don't necessarily follow the councilmanic districts. Some neighborhoods can include portions of adjacent districts, which is the case here. The properties to the east of the I-95 corridor are within the 4th district, and that seems to be the sort of the dividing line. So this is a case where a neighborhood includes more than one councilmanic district. So it would be probably the 3rd or 4th slide, I believe, from the front.
Okay, so see the parcel.
Keep going. No, go to the Browntown Hedgeville. There you go. That's
Okay.
it.
So see that part, see where it says, okay, is that I-95? See I-95?
it bisects the map, and to the east of that, the pink area is the area that was recommended by the plan to be waterfront mixed use.
Okay, can you go to the one before this one, I think. No, not that one. The one that shows the parcels that are being rezoned. Okay, there you go. Go back to that one. That was the one with the dots. Yeah, this one. Okay, so those are the parcels being rezoned. So when you cross 95, see that R3 area? Are any of those properties close enough where they're supposed to get notified about that W2 property right underneath 95?
Not following our normal procedures, no.
Okay. That's all I had.
Thank you, Councilman Guy. Is there any other questions from council members? All right, seeing none. There is one person in public comment. D. Marquis Hall.
Yes, I think that it's important that we recognize that Mayor Przicki is not divested from his corporate interests with the riverfront. I'm interested in the legality of this, whether or not it's against the law for him to, and his interests, his business partners, to continue to benefit from political office, and what decisions are being made, and how council people are voting. I'm sorry, I cut out really. Did you hear me just now?
Yes, we heard you.
Did I cut out?
No, we heard you.
I'm concerned about the legality of this rezoning. Councilwoman Harley, I remember during the Rodney Square situation, when she was used to rezone the area that became the new transportation center after all the buses were moved away. And that area, I knew it would work because it's close to the train station, and it's not something that is gonna be harmful to people. I didn't think. I thought it might be accessible. We just wanted the buses to continue to go to Rodney Square. The homeless shelter being right over there, folks not being able to go there, sometimes they'll end up over there, and the traffic trying to get across that street, it's really dangerous. A lot of things aren't thought about when we rezone these different places going in the future. There needs to be studies conducted on what the collateral consequence will be after this decision is made. But for some reason, I think the reason is money, these questions aren't answered and these decisions are made too quickly. And what we do know, what we're not questioning, is Mike Przicki and his team, his cohorts, stand to make a lot of money on this decision, from this deal being made. And that's really all that it's about. And Sam Guy's right. There needs to be a community benefits agreement, not a side deal. It has to be a real deal, the actual deal. What is first? Because the community and the people need to be put first. In my district, in the 3rd district, we just talked about a power plant that the community never wanted there, that got built back in the 90s, getting an enhancement that we don't even know what they're going to build over there. We don't know what kind of enhancement it's going to be, if it's going to hurt more people. There's no study of what is going to happen after that, whatever they do over there is made. So we just got to ask the questions that are important and get the answers that we need to protect the people that we're supposed to be serving.
Thank you. Councilwoman Harley.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. One of the things that I do want to point out is that when you look at the area right now, okay, there is definitely nothing going on over there. There is no one trying to build anything or trying to develop anything over there right now. So with the comprehensive plan, with the rezoning, this is all about us trying to build a more economical economic engine as it relates to that whole entire area. And right now, it's not interfering with anyone's homes, but it is only going to bring lift up that particular area. It's going to bring in more jobs, and again, it's not interfering with anything that anyone is currently trying to do in that particular area. These parcels have been desolate for many years, from when that was a manufacturing area. And so this is all about economic development. This is about bringing jobs into the area. So I respect everyone's opinion, but whenever anything is going on within the 4th district, I'm very engaged. I ask all the questions that need to be asked, and I'm always making sure that it will be a win-win as much as possible for everyone. So sometimes when some of these, and I'm not speaking to anyone in particularly, these conspiracies are put out there with nothing attached, no ideals, no suggestions, okay, and yet we're trying to move our city forward. And when meetings are taking place and when discussions are taking place, nobody's at the table. When these discussions are taking place, nobody's asking questions, even as it relates to before we have these meetings. Because if anyone has any questions or concerns, you can reach out to me, you can reach out to planning. So I'm simply saying, I'm doing my due diligence as an elected official to represent everyone in the 4th district. And I'm asking for those that are not assigned to committees, okay, that just show up and ask a gazillion questions, but yet can't show up at any meetings when the community's meeting or when we're meeting with the city. Then I'm just saying, to throw out conspiracies when you have plenty of opportunities to ask these questions before these meetings. I really, really would appreciate it, because I spent a lot of time and a lot of energy making sure that the legislation is not just good legislation, but is being done the right way. So I'm just saying, please, going forward, if you have any questions, let's get these questions asked before time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Gray.
Thank you. I'm just going to give my 2 cents. I think that this is a win for the city, but there's a community that could also use some help. And this is going to also be a win for some developers. There's no hiding this. This is what the city has been doing, and this is what our mayor's doing. And it's not necessarily bad, but our communities need to benefit from it. Someone is going to develop that land and make a lot of money off of it. And that'll be good, because that'll possibly bring business or either tax money to the city. But the community should benefit off of that. The developer or the city should offer the surrounding communities something. I don't know, you have to talk to the representatives for those communities, but I totally understand the situation. I think that the community should get a benefit from this land being rezoned. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Gray. Councilwoman McCoy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to state that I do recognize where this actual the area is. I do recognize that it is in the 4th district. My concern is that when it was something as small as that small triangle going from Newcastle County to being annexed to the city of Wilmington, I was approached for something that small. But yet, when we're talking about all these large parcels, like yes, it's definitely legislation that is going out. But you know what? I'm like, if this has happened in September, you know what? This was on me then. I said, because me and my small little teeny team of me doing all of that what do you call it, all of the campaigning or whatever, I must obviously overlook something. I said, because I was not aware that all these large parcels were actually coming up to be for change. Now the thing is, like I stated, I realize that it is 4th district, and that wasn't my concern. My concern is that it is still considered the Browntown Hedgeville area, and unless you're ready to start changing what these what you're naming these things, call this now the Riverfront Park portion or whatever, then Browntown Hedgeville communities are part of 6th district, and that I should be made aware of anything that actually deals with the Browntown Hedgeville. Anything. I'm like, Michelle and I have actually we've had conversations about that small triangle. We've had conversations about what was going to become of the skate park. For this large area to come underway or whatever, and we not have a conversation, or I not be left out the loop, is basically my issue, my concern, and that's it. So I don't know what y'all thought was going to happen. Now I'm after the primary, that I would no longer be part of this table or whatever, but I'm still here and I'm still concerned about what's going on. That's basically what it boils down to. So moving forward, anything that comes through planning that deals with Browntown Hedgeville's name, title, anywhere on it, I ask that I am always on the letterhead, email, or whatever that comes out about it. Thank you very much. That's all I have to say.
And I will say that that's possibly an overlook on our part, and in the future, we will definitely be doing that.
I think Councilman Johnson.
Yes, I think my colleagues bring up some good points about engagement. It's something I think as a council we've looked at, and hopefully with the 108th session we can improve upon that. Free flow of information, but I do have to clear up. I mean, the conspiracy theories regarding developers and baseless allegations, that is harmful to the community, and we must be vigilant, I think, as legislators, not to allow that information to be out there. I think it was a miscommunication possibly, but the conspiracy theories I think do have to stop. But all in all, I think both Councilwoman McCoy and Councilwoman Harley do the work in their community. I just think we have to make sure that the community becomes engaged, because a lot of times the community doesn't know what's going on. So I think those are the next steps that hopefully 108th Council can take, and we can improve upon it.
Thank you. And any other comments from council members? Councilwoman Gray.
I have a comment. I have a question. Is there going to be a hearing on this, or is there going to be a hearing on this at council meeting?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Can we, what's the date that is on there for ordinance 20-44? When is that supposed to be on the agenda for a public hearing?
November 19th.
Okay. All right. So this, again, this is an ordinance and does have to be voted out of committee in order for it to be on the agenda for November 19th. Is there a motion to move ordinance 20-44 out of committee?
Michelle not on it?
I'm here.
Michelle?
She's not on the committee.
She's not on there?
Yeah, she's not on the committee, so she's not a voting member.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I wasn't paying attention. I move motion to move 20-044 out of committee.
Is there a second? All right, hearing none.
Second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Non-voting. All right. This will be on the agenda for, again, on November 19th, and it will also include a public hearing portion of the, on the agenda for November 19th. Thank you for your presentation this evening.
Excuse me, may I ask, Madam Chair, a question?
Yes.
Are we having two hearings on one council night? Two planning hearings?
I think it's only the one. This is the only one that'll be on November 19th.
And mine's the next week then, the next council meeting. Okay,
Meeting December 3rd.
thank you.
Yes. Yeah, thank you. All right, thank you for your presentation this evening. And we will move to the next agenda item. And it's our last agenda item for this evening. It is a substitute 1 to ordinance 18-41, which is the ordinance to amend chapter 8 of the city code to require developers for residential construction. Councilman Guy, are you speaking to that legislation this evening?
Yes, Madam Chair. Okay, so the essence of this legislation, well, before I get to the essence, let me just mention that this legislation has already been to this committee, and it was released from this committee, and it was at council, and there was some discussion at council, and a decision was made to kind of bring it back to council for there to be another opportunity for people who, some were saying they didn't have enough time to look at it. Some folks were saying they didn't have enough time to comment on it. That could relate to people on council, or it could relate to people outside of council. But whatever it is, it's here now on this agenda, so that folks who have something that they'd like to say or comment have, I guess, another opportunity to do so. So the essence of what this relates to is that there are residential construction projects, and that's what this relates to. And in this community, you can go to every district, because being at large, I know people in every district, and there's people in every district who are concerned as to why it is every time they look around, there's people working on residential construction and non-residential construction with out-of-state license plates, people they don't know, never seen in their life, and they sitting there unemployed while people come in the neighborhood or their community every day and every night. That's why I sometimes call Wilmington the city of the exploited. Everybody is benefiting from what happens in Wilmington, but the last people to get the benefit quite often are the people of Wilmington. So this is designed to say, look, there's people who have some skills when it comes to residential construction project, and there's people who would like to learn and develop some skills. And so this is designed basically to say, look, if you're going to receive money and benefits from the city, it's almost consistent with the theme that has come up all night. And that is, all around, people are doing stuff, but the citizens almost are locked out from benefiting. Well, when we as the city of Wilmington, if we're giving people resources, city resources, then it's not unreasonable for us to ask them to do something, give something back for the benefit of the community. In fact, we do that all the time. They do it even statewide, only they're talking about multiple millions of dollars, where they subsidize economic development projects. Some of the projects fail, but they give the people the subsidies, so the citizens never get the benefit of what was promised because the project failed. Well, this legislation is designed for there to be some people, when we put our resources up, it's designed so that there can be some people who get to be involved in apprenticeship programs and get to develop their skills to the point where they can be an independent person working in the residential construction field, whether it's union or non-union, but these apprenticeships give people an opportunity to learn and develop themselves so that some of the people who are hurting can be some of the people who are prospering. Because everybody knows in your district, some people walking around who have some good skills, they just can't get a break. They can't get a door to open. So that's the essence of this program. If you're receiving benefits from the city in the arena of residential construction, then you need to help by having some people in apprenticeship programs so that they can develop, and instead of just having a hourly job or what have you, they can develop and be part of a career. So that's the essence of what this is all about. That's what's trying to be accomplished. We've talked about this multiple times. I had looked at some of the old videotapes and heard various council people's comments about this. And so I don't know that I need to beat it to death about everything about it unless somebody has a question or what have you. The chair is also a co-sponsor, so probably I made my initial comments and I would welcome her comments as well.
The only thing I would add to what Councilman Guy said is that there is currently within the in the procurement office, when they send out for Public Works Department, I did see that there is consistent with what they already have in there on their books. There is already a responsible Class Act apprenticeship program in Public Works under the responsible contractor certification, which is on page RC4. And the legislation that has been sent out before previously, but also includes a definition for Class A, which is consistent to what is in our legislation. And then also it is for the same as far as for anything that comes from the city that's over the bid of $100,000 would qualify. So I just wanted to also make it clear that this is also within the Public Works Department with the contracts already. Councilman Johnson.
Thank you, Chairwoman. This question maybe is for Councilman Guy. Is this legislation supported by labor? This is from Councilman Guy. Is this legislation supported by organized labor? It's a yes or no question.
They would have to speak on their own, but it came out of working with organized labor. That's where it came out of. Now, there's some people in organized labor who, if they have something to say, they're certainly welcome to be here to speak on it, but this came out with organized labor, but it's not dependent on organized labor.
Okay, so that would be no. Organized labor does not support this.
I said it came out of organized labor.
So if I called organized labor, they would say they don't support this bill.
No, if you called, you wanted to call an organized labor, you would get somebody who wouldn't support it. But I'm telling you that organized labor, you may not have been on council. Organized labor came to the floor of city council supporting this concept from the whole region, Lyona's region. So they've been involved and been supportive of this since its inception. Now there's some other people who you may be working with who may have a different point of view, but this came out of working with organized labor from the region all the way to the local.
Okay, so because I have gotten a lot of, I've gotten a lot of feedback from the community, and the concerns still remain on whether we understand the problem, but the concerns remain about just the breadth of this and how this would affect development in the city. And for the bottom line is we don't even have enough trained individuals who are capable of filling these jobs. So that's just an argument, again, I've heard. And I think the concern still remains. Do we have enough people we could even hire and train who are eligible given their criminal records? Whether we understand the problem. And that's a question, Mr. Guy. And again, I mean, you might not have an answer, but that's a concern I've heard is how it was slow development. And also there's not enough eligible people even within the city of Wilmington.
Well, I mean, when you start saying stuff like criminal records, I think there's a lot of people in Wilmington that would take that kind of generalization, because every Wilmingtonian doesn't have a criminal record that bars them from getting opportunities. But also people who do have criminal records opportunity. So council should be the organization that's just saying we don't need to help Wilmington residents because they're criminals. We shouldn't be saying that kind of stuff.
I understand. I just again, I'm not saying I'm just telling you what I've heard, from different viewpoints about this bill. That's all. Thank you.
Councilwoman Gray.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wasn't around when this came up, but I have lots of concerns and I have lots of questions, and I've heard from a lot of people also. My understanding is the county has a responsible contractor clause or law, and they've had many problems when building the library on the 9th Street. That's not 9th Street, on the corridor. They couldn't find local organizations or contractors that could afford to fulfill the requirements. Like you have to have a journeyman to work with the apprentice. And some companies, a lot of the Black and brown companies in Wilmington are too small to do this type of thing. They're mom and pop businesses. They might have 10 employees, 15, maybe 3 or 4, and they can't afford to take on an apprentice. So I see that this ordinance seems to be exclusionary. I know you're trying to help young people have an apprenticeship and get jobs, but then it seems like you're excluding maybe a lot of small Black and brown businesses that can't afford to have apprentices, and also have a journeyman to supervise the apprentice, which is part of this program. So those are my concerns. And they're, like I said, the county's had a program and they have had problems in building things because of the inability to find people that qualify under this. And also it was said that Public Works has this in there. Public Works uses this concept in hiring. Have you ever had a report about how well it's working? I mean, how many companies actually get the bid that qualify? Does anyone know? Because I heard another thing that a lot of times you have to rebid because the people don't qualify. They really don't have an apprenticeship program and someone to be a journeyman, even though they may be the lowest bid. So
this program only applies to when the city
right
gives out grants to assist with residential housing. So if a person didn't want to be a part of the program, they wouldn't have to try to obtain city benefits. And the county building a library is, whoever was telling you that, they really don't know what went on with the county, because the county, I helped build the county library. So what happened was we had a short time frame to get the library built, or it may not have happened at all. So we had to just get a contractor who could do the job on an expedited basis. So it had nothing to do with a program like this program. There would be no library if it wasn't a rushed library, but it had nothing to do with residential housing program. totally unrelated. There's a lot of people putting out, there's a group of people who don't want other people who are doing bad to have an opportunity to do better. And so what they do is they don't step up in public and say, my name is John Smith and I'm from this union and here I'm opposed to this. The record, the city council record is clear, it's in the record. This came out of working with organized labor. But within labor, there's people sometimes who's trying to undercut other labor organizations, just like any family. And so they're the ones who will whisper stuff in your ear, but they won't come step up and say what they have to say. And so, that's what Councilman Johnson just got finished talking about. Somebody told him. Those somebodies, the reason why we had this again was so whoever these somebodies are, if they have something they want to say, they're welcome to say it. But a lot of folks have their own reasons not to want to see people who are hurting have a chance to do better. And that's what this is designed to do. And, that's the object. It's not structured to harm minority contractors. That was one of the first things that somebody threw out once at a meeting as a way to try to sabotage it. We've met with some minority contractors, and once they actually learned what we were doing, they were like, oh, they realized it didn't even relate to what they were doing.
Hey, Councilman Guy. Councilwoman Walsh.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I did call the union today to find out about this piece of legislation. So I'm not talking on innuendo. I got it straight from the mouth. And the response that was given to me was the satellite branch that pushed this legislation from the beginning is not even going to be operating in Delaware after next week. And that 199, the union who would normally be behind something like this, is not in for this legislation at all. So I trust them. I've been dealing with them for 25 years. And so I'll be voting no on this ordinance.
Is there a person, did they give their name or they just called you behind the scenes?
Who was the president of 199?
Who's that?
I'm sorry?
Who is it?
You know who it is, Mr.
So that everybody that's listening, when you hear this kind of stuff, you can believe it if you want to.
He's the president of the building trades also.
But if the person,
Jim Marvellis.
if they won't say their name. Now the building trades, everybody in here knows.
I just said his name.
Yeah, the building trade is the organization that every African-American in Delaware knows are the organizations where it's very difficult to find many people who are in the building trade. And in fact, the building trades, we've been trying to get them to be more diverse in who they're willing to hire. So there's been efforts to try to get them to have a better track record. So the same person that she's talking about is the person who has kind of backed out of helping to get more minorities into the building trades. So if you want to let somebody come to the table representing an organization that has a lack of diversity, prevent a city of Wilmington with a 60 to 70% minority population not have opportunities to get trained, then so be it. But at least you put a name to it. And if that's who's trying to put a subterfuge under apprenticeships, the word apprenticeship is a union term. And if you can't get into an apprenticeship, you can never get to be a journeyman. You can never get to the highest levels of pay. So this is designed to provide opportunities for people to get into apprenticeships. And if we're not willing to try to say, if we give you some benefits, we want you to help make people's lives better. If we're not doing that, we already know how difficult it is for people of color to get in any building trade. So if we want to lock the door or don't want to help open it, we may decide not to help open it. But then don't criticize the people who have the door locked. When they ask, what are you doing to provide opportunity? Don't criticize them anymore. Tell them we're with you. We want all doors locked, the opportunity for apprenticeship for people. So that's my response to what I've heard so far.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
the reason, Mr. Guy, I didn't give you a name at the beginning was because I knew you'd do exactly what you just did. And that is to make accusations against an individual who is not here to defend himself.
He's here.
He's here where?
He just won't get on the line. He's here. He's monitored. That's why you're speaking for him.
That is such nonsense.
Councilwoman Oliver.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Wow. Let me make first. I like to say I work for Local 199, so I'm for all apprenticeships, all jobs. But I spoke to Jimmy Marvellis today because I was thinking that everybody was on board with this, and I had to say he was very highly upset. Stated that. Basically, same thing Loretta said, and I hadn't even talked to Loretta today. He said that the union is trying to deal with this piece of legislation comprehensively, and they're trying to get some other apprenticeships here locally involved. And he's not against the legislation, but this was done. He spoke to the chairperson on several occasions, and he doesn't know why the chairperson or Sam would put this on the agenda without even speaking to him. And he is the person who was backing this, and nobody has reached out to him. This is Jimmy Marvella's words, not mine. And he would like for us not to pass this out because they're having a revamping Local 199, or they have something going, they're revamping the structure of their leadership. And nobody from the local is here to even, because I think they're going to something's going on tonight pertaining to all this apprenticeships. So I just want to tell you, I was going to, support it, but after talking to him, I'm not going to be able to support it either because he was highly upset talking about this piece of legislation today. So that's his exact words, that he was upset that it was even on the agenda. He didn't know nothing about it. And he's spoken to the chair about it and Sam, and nobody's even reached out to him, and he doesn't even know what's going on. So how can city council engineer something, and he's the local who was backing this, and he doesn't even know what's going on? So that's what he said.
Actually, the truth of the matter is that he was never involved in it in the first place. When he tried to interject himself, it was for purposes of sabotaging. Because he's sitting down at the port and riverfront trying to get opportunities for the building trades, which basically has very few minority members. And what it is they're trying to restrict, he's trying to restrict limitations for people in this community who's hurting to get into the trades. In fact, there's programs in this community that are designed to try to open up doors for people to get into the building trades. And the building trades basically have not accepted many, if any, into the traditional building trades. So some people might go to 55, some might go to 199, but he had no involvement when this started. This was the whole Northeast region, Liuna 55. So he's coming in to try to sabotage it for what he's trying to do. So if he's the one controlling how people vote when you got a piece of legislation, so look at the legislation. If you're against the legislation, vote against the legislation. If Jimmy Marvellis, if you're saying you're doing this because he's telling you to be against it, that's your choice. You can do that. Otherwise, I would recommend that you read the legislation because the community is aware of this legislation and they've been to many meetings and they're looking for opportunities to get in the door. And, you know, everybody's going to do what they feel is best.
Councilwoman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've gotten emails all against this legislation, and I can't tell you who they're from because I don't know these people. But since I'm new to this legislation, I'd really like to see some statistics. If Public Works is using this model, then they should have some statistics on how many Class A apprentices they have or contracts they've given out to companies that have this program. And the same thing with county. I mean, just for a couple years, how successful has this been at all? Because I think it's rather exclusionary to small companies. So I'd like to see some data personally. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Johnson.
Yeah, so I understand Mr. Guy's intent, but it is, you know, one group besides labor has been even large community developers like Cornerstone West CDC. They're one of the biggest in town, and they said that this will greatly impact them. So it's not just laborers or one person who is against this. It is a multitude of people, and I mean, I like to work to get something right. And I understand actually behind Mr. Guy's intent, but when I have community development companies too that are saying this is going to hurt them, I have to take pause because they're one of the biggest in town. So, you know, I think there's a way for us to do this right. It's just we have to figure out how to do this.
Thank you, Councilman Johnson. Is there any other, Councilwoman McCoy? Councilwoman McCoy?
I'm so sorry. I was running my mouth with the mute on. Thank you very much, Chair. I actually understand what my colleagues are stating. But one of the things that I actually wanted to point out most, important to me is the fact that what this piece of legislation actually states is, if you want us to help you, why aren't you helping our residents? And that's the thing. That's it in a nutshell. You do not have to be subject to this if you do not try to use the city to get like help or some type of assistance. So that's it. Like, if we're going to help you, why can't you help our residents? I don't understand what is so hard about that major point. So, so for all of the different developers to actually receive funds for like $1 or something has been donated and things of that nature, and then still find other grants and opportunities to put up, residences. They all, when it comes to anything that is considered affordable, multiple subsidies have to be found in order to make certain that you put up this housing. True. I'm like I said, so all of this is basically, to make certain that we help the residents. I'm like, why not give the people an ability who actually are trying to build these houses to live in these houses? That to me, that's as simple, as simplistic as I can make it. I have nothing.
Thank you, Councilman McCoy. And is there anyone in the public who would like to speak on this ordinance? I see D Marquis and then Kevin Smith.
Yes, thank you, Rashima. This is the CBA. We mentioned the need for a community benefits agreement, and this is a major piece, making sure that people have jobs that get barriers placed in front of them when they're trying to achieve, when they're trying to do better. I really hate the fact that Chris Johnson lit up people that have criminal records being back. It seemed to me like that's not something that he wants to change. That has to be something that, if you're someone who touts himself as a civil rights attorney, you should want to change that. And the corporate or the community builders that you're working with, those folks, they should have that same mindset. And if they don't, you should sway them. You should try to coerce them into having that mindset. We need to hire people that might have got in trouble in the past, because there's a lot of people in our community that did make a mistake. And I thank God for second chances. There's certain folks that, the ends justified the means. They were trying to take care of their families. They made the wrong decision, but now they're trying to do the right thing the right way. And then when they go to a job hiring site or an open house, they're told as soon as they get to the table, just because they look a certain way and maybe they're not dressed a certain way, maybe they don't speak they don't speak the way that you would expect them to speak when they're coming for an interview. You're trying to swing a hammer. You're trying to you're doing something that there's certifications, there's education, there's everything that it is that comes along with having a beneficial vocation. And it takes time, it takes dedication, and it takes patience once you get there, once you get on the job. It's hard when you're the only one, when you're the only Black person at the job. There needs to be more diversity, there needs to be more opportunities. That is the benefit that must be first when it comes to a CBA for real estate developers that are building in our community. It has to be first on the list. It's not something that we can question. It's not something that shouldn't make sense to you. It's something that is obvious. And even though I haven't read the legislation, I know that the person that is against it, Jimmy Marvellis, whose name Chris Johnson didn't want to say, but whose name you guys all know and who you've all been talking to, already has everything that he needs. He's there. The community is who you should be concerned about appeasing, not the person who is giving out the jobs and giving out opportunities, but doesn't want to give more jobs out, doesn't want to give more opportunities to certain people for whatever reason. The top of the union, that's where that side deal term comes in that Mr. Guy lifted up before. There's all kinds of side deals that are made by people at the top that are using the people at the bottom and the people that can't get opportunities to benefit. But those are people that we need to try to help and get them benefits, because those people that need help, and those are people that elected you too. So just try to care a little bit more about people that are trying to do better.
Thank you. And Kevin Smith.
Madam Chair, members, am I still muted?
No, we can hear you.
Okay. Madam Chair, members of council, thanks for the opportunity to address you. Certainly the ordinance intention is needed, given the great states of unemployment, especially for Black citizens in the city of Wilmington. And as the person who just spoke, also those who have been returning citizens need opportunity. But we have a lot of concerns on behalf of Habitat for Humanity of Newcastle County about unintended consequences from this ordinance. The ordinance as it's written, it's already been discussed, mentions about requirements to hire apprentices, which is specifically about unions. And there are a number of job training programs in the city that we support that are not union and that create opportunities for minorities to learn construction and possibly be hired. We've worked with Central Baptist CDC and their construction training program. We've hired men off their bench to work with our subcontractors. So not only they're getting on the job experience, but also networking with subcontractors for the opportunity to possibly get hired. So this ordinance is very narrow. It's really geared to help the union. And really the unintended consequence will add more cost to affordable housing. And as you may or may not already be aware, to develop affordable housing in Wilmington is the hardest and most expensive place in Delaware. And we need hundreds of more affordable houses built or renovated in the city of Wilmington, especially for home ownership. But it is a huge challenge. The other aspect that's already been mentioned was about the use of city funds, HUD dollars that come to the city of Wilmington to help subsidize these projects. All the projects that we have done in the city of Wilmington, whether we've used city money or not, or HUD funding, that development cost has been greatly more expensive than what we can sell the unit for. The appraised values in the city have been depressed for a long time. So consequently, you need more and more dollars to just make a project work. And this would add more money to that bottom line. The consequence of that is just less units get built. There is a benefit to the city when they provide subsidy into these projects. First-time home buyers, many of them are City of Wilmington residents, and so they benefit. But also the neighborhoods where these funds are being spent go to help revitalize these neighborhoods. So there is a benefit that the community is receiving. Back to the issue, though, of construction training and employment. We heard earlier in the meeting about a project in the city of Wilmington where it's going to increase the number of housing units by 163, I believe. And there's been talk about 5,000 other units coming into the city. Seems to me those are projects that have a profit margin in them that could absorb more labor cost. Why aren't we looking at concessions into those kind of projects to get minority trained folks into those jobs instead of putting it on the back of affordable housing producers? So again, we over the years have tried to hire minority subcontractors, and I think it was already mentioned maybe by Councilwoman Gray. It's a challenge in the city. There aren't that many, and their capacity is limited. I'd like to see some kind of investment by the city in that issue, how to grow minority subcontractors, the number and their capacity, so that they could be hired and create more sustainable entrepreneurial businesses. But again, when the comment was made, why are subcontractors coming from out of town? That's a main reason why, because we don't have a strong enough minority subcontractor base here in the city. So thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you. Any other comments from councilors? Councilman John?
Yes, I just wanted to again, I think Mr. Smith really hit the nail on the head. This is, this is a issue as to why we have to get the legislation right. And I know, Councilwoman Dixon, your knowledge in this field will be very helpful, but I believe we just don't have the right balance yet, because we don't want to assist with minority hiring, but then we kill and choke the affordable housing market, which helps the Black and brown community. So, and this is why, people that specialize in legislation and policy in DC and the state and federal level, they're highly paid people, because it's important to get legislation right. And, you can't use a machete to, do something that really needs a scalpel. And I think there's a way we can do it. I just don't think this is the piece right now. And, if this does get out of committee, which I don't know, but I can't, the way it is right now, I won't be able to vote for it on the floor. So again, I commend the work, but I think we need to do more work to make sure it's done the right way, because we don't want to kill, again, the affordable housing, small community CDCs that really help the city out.
Thank you. Councilman Guy.
Yes, it's pretty interesting. A gentleman said he was from, I guess, Habitat. And I always find it interesting when people have 1,000 reasons for somebody else not to get a hand up, but they've not developed any programs to help give the same people who's standing on a corner watching Habitat houses and seeing folks come in as plumbers in their neighborhood, getting paid by Habitat or volunteers by Habitat. If they're volunteers, it queers our labor market when people come in and do the work for free, when there's people who could get hired or trained or become apprentices. So all I'm saying to you is the door is locked, and this doesn't even open the door all the way open. What it does is it starts a crack so that some people can start to get developed. So maybe one day they can end up being a person who's doing well and part of some type of construction related trade, etc. When I hear people talk about unions, I always find it interesting that unions aren't the only people who do apprenticeship programs. So what happens is people have put all kind of false information out, because at the end of the day, if you try to do something to help the people that are hurting in Wilmington, you can get 100 people to get in line to come up with some reason not to give no help. And that's why I always talk about monopoly versus operation. This is operation legislation. So today, in the same conversation, in the first district, a developer can build 160 units, come up with a side deal with the community where there's some community benefits. We come over to the boundary line of the 4th and the 6th districts, and the community 6th district residents don't get any kind of benefit, and all the traffic and all heck they're gonna be the recipients of it. They could use a community center, ain't no side benefit for them. One person developer wants their property rezoned. So the city says, oh, well, why don't we rezone the other 15 of your friends and rezone their property for them too, even though they didn't ask. So we just roll out the carpet for those that have. And this is about providing some opportunity for those who don't have, and we're paying for it. They're not paying for it. We're the ones saying that we have some benefits we can give out. And if we give them to you, this is how we'd like you to help. So it's when I hear the speaker talk about go look over there at those big projects, every time you hear me talk, I look at them big projects and ask, what's the benefit for the community? But it's nothing for the community, or a little bit of something for the community. And folks might say, well, that's their money. Well, it's not their money. If we have to rezone, then they have to ask us. And when we rezone something, then we're supposed to be able to deliver something to the community. Anytime we rezone something, we should be able to figure out how can the community benefit if we're going to give our rezoning authority to a private person. But that's a function of how you look at the world. But in the communities where the community makes progress, that's how it works. If you go out Brandywine 100, they didn't build that Concord Mall out there for nothing. They got a community center when that Concord Mall was built. a nice new fancy community center, because their elected officials said, you're gonna come out here and want to rezone, et cetera, you got to do something for the community. So in this community, I just find it difficult where people throwing rocks who don't live in this community, exploit the community financially, hardly leave any benefits for the community, want to actually come up here and speak on a public record that they're opposed to there being a low program where if the city decides to give somebody some money, they got to help in the development of people in our community who need help. I'd like to see the guy, what's his name, president, the peanut farmer president, heck of a nice man. I'd like to hear what he has to say about somebody coming here on behalf of Habitat for Community opposing the little guy getting help. So I'm just saying, so where does the little guy go to get a little bit of help? Does he come to a city council? So where do people go? Do people, maybe this is one of them cities where people got to protest. It shouldn't be, because this is a community where folks got a whole bunch of elected representatives from their community who should be running experiments. These are experiments in democracy. Every piece of legislation is an experiment in democracy, but it's not a reckless experiment. That's why we had people come here, legislators from other towns. We had union people come in to share with how to make it work. That all happened on this city council floor. But at the end, the people doing well want to tell us don't help the people doing bad. So who's going to help the people doing bad? Well, I'm going to put my hand up for that. And so I hope you all find it in your heart to try to help the people who's doing bad, but do what you may. That's all I have, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And I'll, to echo, we have been working on this legislation ad nauseum over the past several years, and been able to start thinking about how we do things differently, especially when we're talking about the bill initially came about by having residents who had issues with not being able to have opportunities. And again, regardless of the legislation or not, I'll still be fighting every day as I am for the people who want opportunities and to have those apprenticeship opportunities. So again, as I've always said, look forward to working with folks who want to actually work and put people to work. Because this is really what this legislation is about, and it's been twisted and turned so many times over the course that I hope that our business community starts to say that we want help in our ways of how can we help fund it in the gaps, in the areas of how to make sure if it's not one, it's two, if it's not two, three, how do we help make this happen so that we are making some type of impact into the community? So I hope that, and also, the unions and some of their components of what was mentioned earlier also, there's clearly some issues that are going on within the union themselves. But again, as we said, there are apprenticeship opportunities that are out there that other people are doing that will qualify for this also. And I understand the data component also that's been brought up. And the economic impacts studies that we probably should have that go along with this so that we can really showcase that we really have talent in the city of Wilmington. We just have to work with it and mend it because these are the folks who need a lot more opportunity and time to actually become skilled laborers and skilled individuals in the city of Wilmington, so that we're not arguing all the time about we don't have talent in the city of Wilmington. Is there any other last comment from council members before we transition to the motion? All right, seeing none. Is there?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't hear what you said.
I was saying, was there any last comment prior to me making this the
Okay.
motion?
No, I'm sorry. I apologize for my.
No problem. So is there a motion to move? And my screen popped away from me. So I just want to make sure. Is there a motion to move this ordinance out of committee for a full council vote?
Yes, I'll make a motion to move the ordinance for full council.
And is there a second? If there's no second, all right, if there's no second, I'll second it. All in favor on the committee?
Aye.
All right. Opposed?
Nay.
All right. So then we will have to do a voice vote for the members who are on the committee. So it'll be Councilwoman McCoy.
Yes.
Councilwoman Oliver.
Nay.
Councilwoman Gray.
Present.
And I think that's it actually for the committee members. And for me, it would be yes. So that means it was, if I'm correct, that means there's 2 yes, 1 nay, and 1 present. All right. Okay. Make sure I'm not crazy. It's late,
Right.
yo. So, all right. So that means that the this ordinance will be moved out of committee. Do we, Mr. Barbe, is there a date on there?
How's that moved out?
Because it's 2. Their present was not a vote.
I've kind of missed the vote, but the date, if it's voted out, is December 3rd council meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Did you hear me? Mm-hmm.
Yes, thank you. So it will be on the ordinance has been voted out of committee and will be on the agenda for full council vote on December 3rd.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. And the last thing, just before we close out, and I applaud and thank you everyone for staying on this long. I know this was a long committee meeting. So I appreciate your staying attentive and being in the meeting, as well as the public staying and making sure they made their public comments regarding specific pieces of legislation. So I just wanted to read this one part just because we didn't get a chance to do it, because I just wanted to make sure it was heard about the legislation for the parcels. I think that was on Councilwoman Oliver's to kind of what David didn't get a chance to speak on, but put it in the chat, not just for anybody who can't see the chat. I just wanted to say
that was Linda. I'm sorry. That was Linda, not me.
No, that was yours, Councilwoman Oliver. The one
okay, for me, I thought you said who couldn't hear. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I apologize. You did a good job.
Yeah, so the one that was by Vandiver Avenue, so by the Wilmington Hope Commission, Delmarva representative just wanted to say that the parcels in blue were purchased by Delmarva in 2012 and are a current substation. The gray area is an existing park and is assessed off of Buena Vista. And then he also, make sure. And then there's no access from Palmer's Row to the river at the park at this time. So I wanted to add that in since we didn't get a chance to have them do that. And then when the substation was originally updated in 2012, a wall and landscaping to the screen, the new housing, Mrs. Sims, worked with the local landscape firm to maintain the area. And he apologized for the back end. So I just wanted to put that on the record so that it was heard, so that we didn't get a chance to hear it. So I will, that concludes our meeting for this evening. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move a motion to adjourn.
I second.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Good job.